So, Chris, WWE clearly was focused on turning Saturday night's main event, featuring in part Cody Rhodes against Kevin Owens, into a destination viewing experience for WWE fans. Mark it on your calendar. Cody screwed up and said this Saturday. He meant next Saturday. They spent the rest of the show saying next Saturday, a week from Saturday.
Yeah.
I mean, small thing, easy to do, but Cody's probably beating himself up over it or something.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But so a week from Saturday, and I thought they did a really nice job here making, and they have for weeks, building up to a crescendo tonight with Cody and Kevin Owens feeling like a pretty epic match. And they found a couple creative ways to build it. Actually, multiple. You had Cody in the ring doing a promo. Then you had the I think more memorable than normal Michael Cole interview in a car with Kevin Owens.
Yeah,
that
awesome.
frigid Minnesota 29 degrees. They said it was 20. I think they're disappointed. It's actually like, 3 whole degrees colder than New York City right now. It's not exactly like off the charts cold, but they had to play it up. Kevin Owens was great. I've got it. A toasty 68 degrees. Come on in. And then they set up the opening segment, a local based match. Chad Gable's from here, which is fun, with Tiffany Stratton and Chad Gable. They played at the Minnesota angle. Cody beats him. Fun, quintessential Cody match. Very efficient, built around a storyline. It's what Cody does well. It's what he did in AEW. Gable was a fun opponent for him, but it was a setup for Kevin Owens to then attack him afterwards. And you have the show closing brawl with all the officials coming out and Corey Graves going, "We've got a main event on NBC to protect."
Yeah.
I just thought this was a really smart show, but especially the build to this match. It was efficient. It was smart. Pulling a boot off, doing the ankle lock. I mean, everything was sold. I give this a thumbs up. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I give it a thumbs up as well. Excuse me. And then the angle between Gable and Cody was one that I didn't expect, right? I think I had missed the announcement of the roster shakeup or the kind of
I don't think they announced it until tonight. They just acted.
Oh, okay.
They just said I think we'll find chat room. Let me know if I'm wrong. I think they just said we're in a trade window, and because I had reported previously, like a month ago or so, there was not going to be a draft. Like I was told that specifically, there will not be like an early draft. But it was hard to imagine, and that's why I asked. It was hard to imagine that they wouldn't move, the Bloodline to Netflix. I mean, my God, it's like they're as important as they want SmackDown, USA Network to feel about SmackDown. They don't want them to feel like totally left behind. Netflix is a big deal. WWE's treating it as a big deal. You're not going to go with Gunther and Cody and not also Roman, whatever. So
that's right.
They worked that in.
Yeah. So, I mean, we anticipate changes. We anticipate them moving the rosters around. But I didn't get that before. So when I saw Chad Gable at first, I was thinking, are they playing fast and loose? But then realizing it was a Minnesota hometown story. I appreciated that they had the hometown boy immediately insulting his own hometown, right? Which made it hot going into the match. So I really appreciated it. And I thought that the match that they put on was incredible. My son kept using the word, man, this is intense. This is intense, right? So I think it told the story the way that they wanted it to. And then the boot business, right? Never seen Cody's boot get yanked off like that, being smashed around by KO. Yeah, it was an awesome angle.
Yeah. I like the idea of Corey Graves just going, the boots are there to literally protect wrestlers' ankles. You know, you don't want to, because, with all it didn't help in War Games. We got some, injuries from people despite a broken toe, broken bones in the foot. We'll get to that, some, pretty major injury announcements. A newsworthy SmackDown. But yeah, the boot being yanked off for a guy who's a specialist in ankle locks was a good, again, very smart. There's a lot of things that are effective about Cody and why he's been a success. And one of them is he paid attention, and I espouse this. I know, I'm sometimes, like, I think Mike Myers and Javier on Acknowledging WWE this week were saying, I'm a traditionalist in some of the things that I espouse, and I think traditionalist is a bit of a loaded word, because it says there's something in the past that most people have moved on from and grown from, but there's some people stuck in the past. Like that's, I hear that when I hear traditionalist, and I don't think Cody would consider himself a traditionalist. I think he would consider himself somebody who is abiding by timeless standards that have been lost by a new generation who are obsessed with high spots and star ratings and social media pops. And instead of framing it with a little negative tinge, I think, of being a traditionalist, it's being an advocate for things that actually should be timeless, were smart, would still apply today, and frankly would result with fewer injuries like we saw in War Games, because you can tell a really effective story that'll get the crowd involved. And you can get the same pop that you get from jumping off the top of a cage and breaking your foot or breaking a toe by simply, as Cody did, sending Chad Gable headfirst into the middle turnbuckle. And I super admire Cody Rhodes for that. Like he knows how to build to a moment and get the most out of something that a crowd reaction that rivals things that break bones.
Absolutely.
And so does Gable, by the way. Like, obviously, Gable's a great dancing partner for that kind of story.
Yeah, the pulling off the boot. I mean, when we see it on TV, right, we can immediately get the sense for what's going on. But from a visual medium storytelling piece, right, this massive action, taking off the boot just highlighted the pain even further without actually really adding to the pain, right? Mm-hmm. So to your point, right, I think there's something beautiful about looking back to the past, to the stuff that's still working, or that in fact does work better than the present. But that business with traditionalism, that you said, I don't think Cody might call himself a traditionalist, but he wants to take hold of the living witness of the past, right? And the treasure that's back there. And we saw that on display tonight with an incredible wrestling match.
I mean, it's not to get all philosophical and big picture, because there's a lot of specifics about tonight's SmackDown to talk about, but there are things that were done in the past that, quite frankly, a younger generation of wrestlers and an older generation of wrestlers trying to not look to keep up, mm-hmm. and writers and promoters and announcers, they're sort of glorifying something that had a novelty at one point. The Jushin Liger, High Spots, Dynamite Kid, going back to Saturday Night's Main Event, that's when my eyes were open to a whole new wrestling style, was those first Saturday Night's Main Events in the mid-'80s with what Dynamite Kid could do, and Davey Boy Smith too, but especially Dynamite Kid. Just blew my mind. Young Bret Hart, I saw him so many times live during the Hart Foundation era and the Intercontinental title era. They did athletic moves in a special way that nobody else was doing, but they were also traditionalists, if we're going to use that term in a neutral sense. And then what happened is, over the past 40 years almost, things got more dazzling, and then wrestlers started seeking out the This Is Awesome chance, the Fight Forever chance, and that kind of thing, instead of what Cody artfully did tonight with Gable, which is getting fans to laugh at Chad Gable, getting his head sent into the turnbuckle, and Julius, everybody is in a contest to protest the ref kicking them to the back in the most over-the-top way. Julius pushed right up to the limit of seeming cartoonish, but he had a lot of fun. There are things you can do without putting your body at risk in it, ending up with big ailments. And so what was novel, but perhaps reasonable, has turned into decades of, can you top this? And now it's gotten sort of ridiculous, and fans are numb to it. You get 4 hours of AEW with, as William Regal talks about, the same big high spot being done 3 matches in a row with diminishing returns. Right. So because of that context, and I know there's some fans who think their oxygen as a wrestling fan is one dangerous high spot after another. And I just say step back. I think you'll enjoy wrestling equally, if not more, when every move counts and wrestlers are actually not breaking bones to please you, so you can have a This Is Awesome chant. Right. Cody and Gable showed that tonight to me. And I think it's a type of match you would show to wrestlers going, settle the F down, stop worrying about social media and star ratings, and let's think about getting an emotional reaction from a crowd that's there to take delight in a heel getting shown up.
That's right.
In an athletic situation that actually feels, within the realm of wrestling, realistic. So I thought this was a good template for that. Yeah,
and I think watching it with my son and seeing, I mean, he'll get impressed with the big high spots, right? He loves to see flipping. He loves to see all that stuff because he's 11, right?
Yep.
But watching that match, for him to be able to understand that it told the story a different way, and he couldn't articulate it, right, the way that we are, but he felt it, and that's what makes this stuff so amazing. If I can, just a story from earlier today for me. I was watching the end of the night 2 WrestleMania, Cody Roman, where Cody gets the belt, right? And somebody had posted on Twitter that they wanted to go back to that moment. They wish they could feel that again. So I started watching the video, and before the ref counted to 3, I just decided I needed to watch the whole match again, because immediately I was overwhelmed by the power of the story. right?
Yep.
And I had to go back and just experience it again. That's, I think, what Cody's doing in a way that's kind of new for me for the past, having returned to wrestling recently. But it's touching something deep in a way that doesn't destroy bodies, as you said, that doesn't bring bloodthirstiness out of us, but it's just human stories in the ring done incredibly well. So I think they nailed it tonight.
There's an efficiency to telling that story, and I won't say ironically, but maybe counterintuitively to a lot of fans who just, it's the density of high spots and dangerous spots and things breaking and people leaping off of high places. That's how they rate a match, and that's why I moved away from star ratings, because I just think the whole criteria of what a good match is just kind of been ruined. Ruin's a weird word, but kind of distorted out of a unified standard that a star rating applies to anymore, and it's weird. It's I wish it wasn't that way, but the idea is you want people to feel something. And I think what draws the most money is people feeling an emotion that has something to do with a babyface heel dynamic, with those novel exceptions that come from. Right. You want it to feel novel when it's something bigger than a babyface heel matchup, and then it means more when it happens. So anyway, okay, let's pause. Let's introduce ourselves, and then we got Sean in Tennessee waiting to join us. We've got chat room comments I want to read. I'll check the inbox. And a lot more to talk about from SmackDown. This is the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show for Friday, December 6, 2024. I'm Wade Keller, the editor, publisher, and founder of the Pro Wrestling Torch Weekly newsletter. The website, PWTorch.com, which just celebrated quietly, other than me mentioning it here, our 25th anniversary since we launched on the web. Changed my life forever. No more days off. You're always live. You're always, oh, news? Okay, I'll go post it. Before that, it was, news? I'll talk about it on my 900 line later tonight, or even before that, I'll report on it next week when I write the newsletter. So 25 years of being on call constantly, forever, never ending. But it's obviously it's a fun, it's a rush. Every format change and media change has been. So anyway, hope you're checking out PWTorch.com. My live TV coverage of Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown most weeks. Live PLE coverage. I'll be covering Saturday night's main event a week from Saturday. Next Saturday, Cody, not this Saturday. I said too many nice things about him, so I got to rub that in.
That's right. Right.
And also I'm host of various podcasts. The Wade Keller Post Show, the Wade Keller Podcast with Rich Fant earlier this week. VIP shows like Everything with Rich and Wade, The Fix with Todd Martin, Post PLE Roundtables, Wade Keller Hotlines, and more. Some of those are VIP exclusive. PWTorch.com/GoVIP is the place to go if you want to be a VIP member, or at least just learn more about it. PWTorch.com/GoVIP. That includes Apple Podcast compatible feeds. You can also sign up through Spotify by searching PW Torch VIP, and signing up for our VIP audio through Patreon, which works with Spotify. They've got a partnership. And you can also use your Apple account using your Apple iPhone. All is explained, all the details of membership, all the different tiers. Almost, well over 35 years of back issues of Pro Wrestling Torch newsletter, hundreds of retro radio shows from the 90s. Really fun, just time capsule of my coverage of wrestling and my whole team over the decades, so go check it out. But we're here to talk SmackDown tonight. They were at Target Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which Corey Graves oddly said is the home of the Minnesota Twins, the Minnesota Vikings, and the Minnesota Wild. Minnesota Wild play 10 miles away in downtown St. Paul at the XL Energy Center, which is fine. He's talking about broadly Minnesota. But the one pro sports team of the four major men's teams, they've got a soccer team, we've got women's teams, but they're kind of the four. He left out the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Western Conference finalists, who play the only team that plays in the building that he was sitting in. So I don't know how
that's wild.
Yeah. Whatever. It's no big deal. But it was just like, wait, why did he leave out the team whose logo is behind Bianca Belair and Naomi and behind Michael? It's like, and the Naz Reid towel made an appearance. Like, hold on, Chris. The Naz Reid towel. He is a cult favorite Minnesota Timberwolves, sixth man of the year in the NBA last year. And they gave out beach towels, and now it's showing up at the Super Bowl. It's showing up overseas on sporting events, and they held it up behind Graves and Co. It would have been a terrible oversight if we didn't see a Naz Reid towel on SmackDown when WWE visited his home arena, Target Center.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. Well, I think it was for Survivor Series last week. They had a T-shirt that actually had the Seattle Space Needle on it, right?
Yeah.
So I guess they need some geography lessons, but we'll give them slack, right? They're in the pro wrestling business, not the mat making business. So.
Yeah, I mean, they got at least. I mean, they said Minneapolis, which is good.
Right,
but no one ever says they're in St. Paul when they're in Minneapolis, but people do say they're in Minneapolis when they're in St. Paul. And don't get me started on that, because people will chant you're in St. Paul if you say you're in Minneapolis when you're in St. Paul.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like
if you're on an airplane and if you're on an airplane and the flight attendant says we'll be landing in Minneapolis, like people go Minneapolis, St. Paul, St. Paul people want to be included because it's the Twin Cities. St. Paul's not a suburb; it's an equal co-city of the Twin Cities. So I get to rant on this once a year. WWE did a good job tonight. They're in Minneapolis. They other than not mentioning the Wolves, but that's weird. Anyway,
Forgivable.
Yes, the unforgivable is what you might say. Chris Adams is my co-host. He is a contributor to PWTorch.com and a regular co-host here on the post show. Chris, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Wade. It's always a blast.
Good to have you here. So tell people about your column for the website.
So I do hits and misses every Friday night, where I talk about the things that I think were hit out of the park, and occasionally have to inform people that there might be a few misses. SmackDown's been on a hot streak lately. I think 2 weeks ago I had my first ever all hits show. Now, again, it's subjective, but I tend to think I'm right. So you can check that out usually it probably gets published every Saturday.
Yep. And are you a little worried that SmackDown's going to take a hit with star power in the Netflix era? Like it's going to go from sort of the A show, or at least an equal to Raw at worst, but they're going to pull away some stars and it's going to become secondary?
I think it's inevitable. I imagine that was part of the Netflix deal, right? They're not going to spend that much money and not bring over Roman Reigns, for example. And plus, he's already been talking about he's going to be there at January's at the first one.
Yeah. I think the idea was everyone will get to show up for the party the first week, but then, the brand split will kick in again. And obviously they float a little bit, when there's an excuse, and there have been excuses, like reasons for people to be on both shows. So I'm curious how that goes. I mean, Nick Aldis and Gunther were shown shaking hands tonight. Right. I mean, obviously it's coming across. They're telling the story that basically there's going to be some major trades. Understandable, but you don't want SmackDown to suddenly feel like the B show again. So they're going to have to work hard. Even if Netflix paid a lot of money, so did, by the way, NBC Universal. So they expect a big show. So the chat room jumped in, by the way. Oh, before I do that, let me give out the email. If you want to be part of the show, I'll be checking the inbox. It also means if you don't watch us live on YouTube and you want to be part of the show, email's the way to do it, because you can't be a live caller and chat with us if you're not watching live. Most of you listen on delay the next day. Obviously makes sense on our podcast feed. Search Wade Keller, by the way, and subscribe to the Red Logo Show and the Blue Logo Show, the post shows and the podcast. So if you want to be part of the show, but you're not going to watch us live and be in the chat or be a video caller, wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com is the email. And if you're watching us live, that's a good way to send an email that isn't as short as a chat. The chat has limited characters and it runs off the page. I don't always see them. So that's a way to contribute to the show. If you're a VIP member or Patreon supporter, you can look for the code. We post it on Patreon. It's also at the top and bottom of my TV report at PWTorchVIP.com, our VIP, ad-free VIP exclusive website. And you can be a video caller on the shows after Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown. Otherwise, we always keep an eye on the chat room. If you want to really draw attention to yourself, you can do a super chat, and we guarantee if it meets our standards, and they almost always do, but someone might test us on that and try to pay $1 to be a super chatter and then try to get me to say something stupid. So I reserve the right. I don't have a lawyer who told me to say this, but if I had a lawyer who told me to say something, I'd be like, don't guarantee anything. But super chats get priority attention from me, and so far have always been read. All right. So, Chris, let's get back to the conversation. So, the trade window, Jonathan, who's watching us live on Facebook, said Chad Gable called it a transfer portal.
Okay.
And Derek Mitchell added, it was announced tonight the transfer window, like the transfer portal in college football. I swear I heard a trade window at some point too. So I have to go back and check the tape. Maybe they just use various terminology throughout the show. But yeah, I mean, it's made up, but it's better than not having something that's made up it gives a window for this to happen. Yeah,
as long as it's consistent within their own storytelling rules, it's fine with me. And they said, oh, we're going to do transfer portal. Great. Fun.
Yep. And I mean, they were very forthright. Michael Cole's like,
Yeah.
there's going to be big changes. We're going to Netflix. We're going to have we're going to shuffle some talent around. There's a lot of big moves being made between the GMs. I'm really, maybe don't even say this enough because we spent so long and you missed some of those years, Chris, that the GMs were awful and overplayed and they were characters. It's like, ex-wrestlers who weren't like, why is Kurt Angle, Mick Foley, and Ric Flair GMs? I mean, they could have played the role well, but it was sort of a setup for angles. And sometimes they just were on TV too often. It became about them in a way that was distracting. Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis are very different GMs, and they are two nearly perfect GMs. Yeah. Like, they're exactly what I imagine. Ex-wrestlers, but not, with all due respect to Nick Aldis and what he accomplished, not like top-tier, WrestleMania main event, iconic stars who seem like they're, like a lot of mid-level NBA players and NFL players become really good head coaches. Yeah. They were good wrestlers, had nice, respectable careers. Nick Aldis might not be done, maybe not Pearce either, but probably. But they play the GM roles really well, but really differently. And I like when we get to a trade portal that viewers of Raw and SmackDown go, you know what? My show's Raw. It's in good hands. I think Adam Pearce is an advocate for Raw. He knows he works for WWE, but he's an advocate fighting for Raw to get a fair shake. Same thing with SmackDown fans. Nick Aldis, he's smart. He takes his job seriously. He's going to push hard to make SmackDown better. But they're both going to kind of balance each other out in a way. And so when you hear, trade window, transfer portal, as a fan kind of buying into the world that WWE creates for us, it's well represented, and it feels like, okay, it's not going to just be a raid that leaves one brand super weak. Storyline-wise, that's how you feel. I'll believe it when I see it in reality, but like storyline-wise, it's not like, oh, it's the McMahons are going to just bring everyone to Raw. You have two sides representing each show.
Yeah, the transfer portal business also makes it feel more like a sports-based presentation, right? Yep. That there's this idea that they're doing things that other industries do, right? So consistency there as well.
Yep. So Ken Arnold says Raw and SmackDown will still be equals. I don't anticipate too many changes. We probably won't see the draft until mid-May at the earliest. That's what I've been reporting. I think things will stay status quo for WrestleMania. They're not basic. I mean, it's clear they have major storylines that they want to get to at WrestleMania. We don't know for sure. Will there be a Rock match? Will there be a triple threat match with Cody? Like Cody, where does Punk fit in? I don't think it's like obvious to everybody what the top WrestleMania matches are going to be, but they're not going to probably do trades that break up a match that seems like a direction we're heading. So the trade portal allows them to kind of, if they have a different idea for WrestleMania now than they did 4 or 8 months ago, with a little tweak here and there, maybe having to do with Rock or something, then this allows them to kind of tweak things. It allows them to freshen up the show. It also just allows them on the mid-card. I don't know how far the trade portal is going to go, but Chad Gable is a mid-card guy, and he's talking about maybe moving. So it could create some fresh matchups that they specifically think will work well, not just for Raw, but also to help prop up SmackDown if SmackDown loses the Bloodline.
Mm-hmm. It feels like there's a lot of that going on in WWE, a lot of soft resetting in a way. I felt like Monday Night Raw was a lot like that. And I feel like some of what we're seeing with the tag teams shifting with DIY, which we'll touch on tonight, that they're doing some things with the story. Sorry, my cat was about to jump in front of the camera again. They're doing some things with the stories that feel like they're preparing the ground for something big to shift come January with the Netflix move. But I'm beginning to feel it, and it feels earlier than how they began shifting the stories for WrestleMania season. So I think we're in store for some really big stuff.
Yeah. Ken Arnold adds, it sounds so much better to call it a transfer portal or trade window than the Vince specialty of a superstar shakeup. It sounds better and comes with more seriousness to it. Yeah, but it's not an alliteration. I mean, right. S and S, superstar shakeup, even though sh and sa aren't really, I mean, they're S's, but they have different sounds, so it's not technically an alliteration.
Or maybe works barely.
It barely works in what it was so well defined. The various executions of the draft over the years were a real sign that Vince McMahon and a lot of the writers, especially Vince, were not sports fans and didn't understand how drafts worked and what their viewers expected a draft to be like.
That's amazing.
Cy T in the chat says these GMs both play their roles well. It's legitimately weird to think of either of them as, quote, one of the boys, i.e. an ex-wrestler, because they so seem like management now. Brock Benningfield says Cena, Punk, Roman, Rock, Cena, Gunther, plus any surprises, and that's just the guys, and only 2 WrestleMania main events. CM Punk and where he lands is going to be interesting, but John Cena going to be on Netflix, and now maybe maybe everybody shows up at Netflix for week 1, and then that's when they announce the trades. Although I'm a little leery of the first show featuring everybody, and then the advertisement of the first show is, hey, all these people you're excited to see, 4 of them won't ever be here again.
Right.
They're going to be on SmackDown on Friday. Like, you got to be careful about that. So we'll see how it goes. Cody V adds, maybe Gunther gets traded to SmackDown in exchange for Cody. Cody is on Raw and Netflix going forward. Gunther gets separated from Kaiser, further pushing Gunther into a babyface role. What Chris, quick sidebar, what do you think about Gunther? Seemed very babyface-like in his interactions with Nick Aldis. I mean, he wasn't signing autographs for little kids, but they're not playing him up as this jerk that he's been. It seems like they're up to something with him. I'm still not sure what it is.
I think so too. I mean, the match he had with Dominic on Monday night, right? He certainly played the babyface role in that dance.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like they're shifting him. The way I read his character now, I don't know if he's ever going to get to that true classic babyface, or if he's going to operate in sort of a neutral ground, kind of like how Braun Breaker is right now. You never know quite which way a feud can go. You just know that what you're going to get is going to be explosive and amazing. So, yeah, I don't know if you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons, Wade, but you could be a character. They call them chaotic neutrals. They just do whatever the hell they want when they want. That's what I see when I see Gunther, right? He's going to do what he wants when he wants. So not a traditional heel, but not a traditional babyface. And I like it. I like what they're doing with him.
So, yeah, I think it's a neat idea in – I don't want to say moderation, in when it's rarely done. I think when you have a show like Raw, and if that's a Levesque direction, a Paul Levesque booking direction, where he's going to put his mark on things by having a bunch of characters that people don't feel passionately one way or the other about, but just find interesting and compelling, I think you're counting on wrestling fans to tune in for a completely different reason than wrestling fans have tuned into wrestling for all of pro wrestling's history, which is, I really want to see this guy who I really like, and they've framed him in a way that makes me like him more or her more, against somebody who I really want to see lose. Yeah. And I've used the analogy. It's. I think pro wrestling's like the NHL. I don't want to spend $500 or $100 to go see a neutral game between 2 teams who are super skilled, but they're not my home team and they're not my favorite player. I appreciate good hockey. I want to go cheer for my hometown team, Minnesota Wild, against a top rival. I want to yell and scream and be mad at the referees and let all that emotion out. I don't think people go to NHL games to appreciate crafty passes and great goaltending. That is a necessary foundation of any sport gaining popularity, is skills. But nobody goes, I'm really excited tonight to see some great passes in a game where I don't care about the outcome.
Right.
Come on. Pro wrestling is about, I want to see this guy kick that guy's ass. I want to see Cody Rhodes beat up Kevin Owens. That's what pro wrestling is. So if Gunther's going to be some tweener, they're taking away, of course he's going to be compelling, but you're taking away the emotion of, I really want to see Gunther kick this guy's ass because Gunther's a face, or I really want to see Gunther get his ass handed to him because he's such he thinks he's better than everybody else. And so I just think wrestling fans who want to see this more sophisticated, like nuanced, great shades of gray type pro wrestling, I think you're going to be enjoying it in front of 4,000 people instead of 12. 3 years from now, if that's the direction Levesque goes. I think you lose 2/3 of the fan base if you go too heavy in that direction. Fans don't want to go to neutral site games and appreciate, am I going to like him a little bit or not like him a little bit this week based on his opponent? People want to cheer and boo outlandish characters who pull emotions out of them consistently and give them a reason to feel good or bad about them.
So do you think he's trying to move more of these characters this way as a booking philosophy?
That's my question of the week, and I don't know, and I haven't inquired, like I haven't asked, I haven't sought out like any insight on that. But Monday's Raw was so full of that. Was it happenstance, or is that obviously it's not a philosophy for everybody? Ciampa and Gargano were traditional heels, and it got a big reaction from the crowd. Yeah. And people, Sabin and Shelley are this really nice babyface tag team. And now Ciampa is a heel, and Gargano is this wise ass who was in on it and pulled the trigger on a turn at the right time. They're not abandoning the heel face thing. But he's certainly dabbling in it more. Mm-hmm. And I think each situation we have to watch play out a little bit, because I think the Braun Breaker strategy is different than the Gunther strategy. They have different endpoints in mind for each of them. And all the other instances on Raw that we talked about on the Raw post show was a big part of the conversation then. By the way, you brought up Dungeons and Dragons. Javier and Machado and Mike Myers were bringing up some Dungeons and Dragons analogies. Went over my head, but I found it interesting. I've observed it being played, and was the idiot who goes, "Who's winning?" Because you want to be funny. And now I look back and I'm like, but just don't say that, people. Don't be what I was. But it's interesting. I mean, it was interesting hearing them talk about it. And
it's awesome. Yeah.
By the way, Acknowledging WWE is on the PWTorch Daily Cast feed. It is free, and you just search PWTorch and subscribe. There's a AW-based show, a WWE-based show, the 90s Past Cast. There's Coast to Coast, which covers indie shows. The Wrestling Night in America, which is the pay-per-view wrap-up post shows that Brandon LeClaire is hosting. So on and on. I'm not going to name all of NXT. Now, have I named all of them? Probably not. That's why I'm scared to do this. But anyway, it's free. Search PWTorch, and a different show each day of the week. And there'll be at least one show and maybe 6 or 7 that are appointment listening. Hey, Chris, you want to add anything to that? I know I kind of jumped through a few topics.
Well, I think going back to the booking philosophy piece we're talking about, I do think there's something to just the I keep going back to the word primal, but something so human about good versus evil, right? Morality play, so to speak. And I think that's what, for me, is so attractive about wrestling. It's the last place where we see live theater that tells a morality play. I mean, yep. It really is the last place we see it on this level, especially. So it's like the Greek theater, right, where it tells these stories that teach us how to be human. And so maybe if I could get philosophical for a moment, right, why that kind of babyface heel dynamic works is because it gives us the kind of people to aspire to be, right? It gives us ideas of the kind of people that we could be, rising above the impulses that the heels give into, right? So there's something really beautiful about that. Another one of the reasons why I love it so much. So I'm fine with the nuance, and I like it in small doses, but all of us know that this isn't real. So it doesn't have to be reality in that sense. It can be something else. So
I just, and this isn't disagreeing with you, just pro wrestling isn't built on sitting in front of your TV. I mean, more so than ever, but it still isn't. And I'll get to this. It's not about sitting around your TV and feeling a little guilty for rooting for Walter White or Tony Soprano. Pick your kind of nuanced, shades of gray, morally challenged lead who is going against sometimes even more evil. Like, you watch the show and you lean back and then it's over and you might talk about it, you might think about it. Pro wrestling is about get emotionally worked up and go buy a ticket and scream and yell and cheer and boo. And it's just, and that energy is vital. And you won't know till it's missing. When everyone's sitting around going, ooh, this Gunther, I have mixed feelings about him. He's really interesting and layered like real people in these movies and highbrow television shows I watch. And I feel better as a wrestling fan and as a wrestling booker now that I've taken wrestling to this new sophisticated level, and what you can have is a bunch of people sitting around, rubbing their chins going, gee, let me think about Gunther's more. No, you want to cheer and you want to boo, and that energy is what makes pro wrestling fun. So I am putting up the fight against going too far in this direction. But the caveat, don't dumb down my argument. I am absolutely for the Hulk Hogan Ultimate Warrior matches and an occasional heel match where you're like, I as a kid, a few years into my fandom, Nick Bockwinkel, #1 heel, managed by Bobby Heenan, AWA champion. I saw him again. My first live match was Bockwinkel losing to Vern Gagne in Vern Gagne's retirement match. Bockwinkel was still, to this day, the greatest opponent Hulk Hogan ever had. Go look at it at YouTube. Look at Bockwinkel's flat back bumps and the way he bumped for Hogan, and Heenan doing his work at ringside. It was all downhill from there for Hogan, and he had some good opponents, but Bockwinkel and Heenan were absolutely #1. But Sheik Adnan El-Casey came in for the Middle East and threatened to take the AWA title to the Middle East, and Mick Bockwinkel feuded with him, And I was as scared of the Sheik as a kid as kids today are of Jacob Fatu. It's a closest facsimile. Jacob, he was crazed. He had the eye. He just, when he applied a submission hold, I was like, I just ran. Like my dog hides downstairs when there's a thunderstorm. Like that's how I felt seeing the Sheik. And suddenly I found myself rooting for Bockwinkel. So, you can have heel matchups, but it should be an exception because of something extraordinary. And I said I didn't want to do too much big picture stuff, and here I am. But I'm a little concerned, but also intrigued. I'll enjoy watching someone try something new, but it doesn't mean I won't throw up a warning flag going, be careful what you wish for. As a fan, as a booker, as a wrestler, as a promoter, you might lose something that we got tonight with, how fans are reacting to Cody, how they're reacting to Gargano. That's still at the core an essential element, the fan emotional rooting for or against something. Don't stray too far from that because you want to make your mark in history as, if you're Paul Levesque, we're going to be more sophisticated. It's like, you're not a 13-week series on HBO. You're drawing live audiences 52 weeks out of the year, 3 times a week. So anyway. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I was saying, but it just speaks to the power of it. Here we are, 10:45 at night, 2 grown men waxing poetically and passionately about scripted combat. They're doing something right when they can get us so excited, right? Yeah, it taps into something deep. So, we're proving their point.
Couple of chat room comments. JC Scooby 1976 says, I want Gunther to stay heel. I like him as a heel. Yeah. That's my vote too, but let's see the lay of the land and how things break down. Derek Mitchell said they're already doing Shades of Grey with Braun Breaker and now possibly Gunther. Well, yeah, definitely. That's what we're saying they're doing Shades of Grey. Braun Breaker isn't, if from the Netflix timeline he's evolving, but from a WWE standpoint in the main roster, he's just a guy who isn't all that bad, but he's not all that good, but he's standing out. And I don't know if that's a deliberate attempt to make him a Shades of Grey tweener, or if it really is them hedging. They're like, we don't actually know what we have with him yet because we saw him do a lot in NXT. There's a whole spectrum of things he tried. Let's just have him be badass, intense, and become a star. And then we're going to look at how he does in that context, see how crowds react, and we'll decide at that point when we really want to make money with him, it's going to be either as a face or a heel. You're not going to make big money with Braun Breaker, maximum money, if he's some in-between guy who doesn't really embrace the fans and the fans don't embrace him, or vice versa. You just can't wait for a babyface to knock him down because of his ego and his arrogance and the jock bully type thing that he could play well. So I think they'll pick a lane with him. My hunch is they're just hedging and kind of waiting to see what they think the lay of the land and crowd reactions dictate.
What do you want them to land on?
I don't know yet. I'm with them. Yeah. Like if I'm right in that's what they're doing, I understand why it's taking a while. And part of it is what happens with Gunther. What happens with the Raw and SmackDown, trade window? I think they're going to and who else gets injured? Honestly, he could work either way. My inclination and leaning is go heel for a while first, but I think he could be a baby face who goes heel in a year and a half and then has a good run as a heel before turning face. It also depends on, I don't know if Cena wants to be in the ring with somebody that powerful who might break him in half.
Yeah,
but
really.
They might go, you know what? We actually want Braun Breaker against John Cena in Cena's final match because we think that's a torch passing moment symbolically. Do we want Breaker as a more traditional heel, or do we want Breaker as an emerging babyface star and Cena says, bring it on, if you can beat me, I'm anointing you, I'm passing the torch to you. So they could have different things in mind, and I don't want to know ahead of time, but let's not sell short Paul Levesque and this booking team that they don't get a free pass on everything. We're going to, question and analyze what they're doing and all that. And, match finishes on TV, I think have been a bad thing for the Levesque era of booking. But I think we should have some faith that they probably have some things in mind and reasons for everything they're doing, and they will show themselves over time.
Yeah.
Brock Benningfield says, I think fans want to cheer Braun and they should lean into it. Well, sometimes the best time to really go hard, it's too definitive of a statement, but I'll say it. It's often said the best time to turn heel is when you're really, really over as a babyface, because that's when fans feel the most betrayed. That's when they feel the strongest emotion of betrayal. It's kind of what they're trying to do with Gargano. Gargano was this moral centerpiece, nice guy, Johnny Wrestling. Fans are chanting Johnny Wrestling. Ciampa's being a meanie to him and has his temper. It would have meant less for Gargano to turn tonight if fans weren't pulled into liking him more than Gargano these last few weeks. So to me, if the fans want to cheer Braun, maybe they should lean into it. It's an option that seems there, but maybe that will make it all the more effective when he goes heel, because I think fans look at him and go, this can be our guy. And if he goes, I don't want to be your guy, then they're like, well, I'm going to pay money to boo you, and I'm going to cheer this other guy who I liked better all along, and I mean that, even if they are not telling the truth. So,
I'm with you on that.
Yeah. Okay, so we brought up New Day. Just a couple comments in the chat room. DIY was a bit too similar to New Day for me. Tease a breakup, both turn heel. That was Side T. Brock Manningfield says, reminds me of Owens and Drew. Oh, I'm sorry, that was a different topic. I wanted to bring this up. Okay, people keep adding chats, so I keep missing my window here of the where I want to find the other comment. Well, anyway, I'll just throw to you, Chris. Well, look, what did you think of the way that they played that? And I'll say my one question is, what advantage did Gargano gain from apparently a multi-week con that Champ and by Champ and Gargano, the Ciampa was the hothead and Gargano was still a nice guy trying to stay loyal to his longtime friend, Alex Shelley. What did they gain from the con? Because you want to make sure you don't just surprise an audience with a reveal. There has to be a foundation of, oh, I see why they did it if this were real life.
I mean, I think they got the immediate reaction of the betrayal, and that we felt it, right? It wasn't just watching a betrayal play out for a couple people, but we finally found out that we had been deceived this entire time, right? It wasn't just the people within the ring. And so I think that connection, that sense of we have been duped, allowed for a bigger emotional reaction to when he finally made the switch.
Why would Gargano, if this was real, why would Gargano and Ciampa concoct that? That's what I'm getting at. Like, I don't want to watch people get an emotional shock like the New Day on Monday. I mean, there's been, I think a reasoned discussion and reasonable people disagreeing over whether that made any sense at all, or if you have to do mental gymnastics to do it. Again, Javier and Mike Myers broke it down on Acknowledging WWE this week, just dropped earlier today or last night. And there's some holes in this unless you assume things that were not apparent. So that's my question to you is what if this were real, what did Gargano and Ciampa, because Gargano's goal is not to get a crowd reaction in canon. His goal, as if we pull back and go, what's his real job? Well, yes, but wrestling's a lot less enjoyable if we're watching it and all wrestlers are doing is trying to get pops. The reason wrestling is fun to watch is because we get immersed in a world where wrestlers have the motivations in the canon of this fictional world. What is that motivation for Gargano? And I'm not saying it's not there, but that's my specific question. Don't talk about, the crowd was shocked. Only. Yeah. Wrestling breaks down if there isn't a logic to it.
Yeah. I mean,
I'll answer my own question as you think. Is it just this simple? Was it we lulled Shelley into a false sense of security, and Gargano was able to super kick him when his guard was down, and Gargano actually resents Shelley in the same way Ciampa did, and he wanted to humiliate him and add a little extra, like Tabasco sauce on the paper cut by lulling Shelley into thinking Gargano was his friend, when somewhere along the line Gargano, at the beginning or somewhere along the line, started agreeing with Ciampa that he was jealous, and he'll probably explain himself. So, like I said, I'm not saying it isn't there, but I'm worried about booking that goes, let's just do unexpected things to have crowds go, whoa, I didn't expect that, and then later that night fans are like, wait, the last 3 weeks make no sense then.
Yeah, I can see where you're going with that, right? I suppose that sense of jealousy, right, that you went to, that sense of within the story, wanting to show up his mentor who arrived on the scene and took his spot, right? I mean, that's the motivation I could sense from it. But you're right. It doesn't quite feel complete, that they're going to have to cook it a little bit more for it to feel like it makes sense, given everything that's gone on the past couple of weeks. But that's, I guess, where my mind went.
Yeah, like I think every wrestling angle should be booked through the lens that if this were real life, does this hold up to scrutiny of would this happen in real life? When you let go of that, things start to unravel, and I think things actually become a lot harder to draw emotion. So the chat room has some ideas on this. So let's just jump in. Cody V says Ciampa finally got through to Johnny. They attacked the Street Profits to get the match. Yeah, now we know that. I mean, we don't know, but I mean, obviously. Johnny plays it off, and then the swerve with the fake breakup. They're not ready for their main roster feud yet. And then David Hager says, I think once the Profits snuck into the title shot a few weeks ago, Johnny used his relationship to screw them when they took their spot. Let's see. Then David Hager adds, then Johnny resents the Guns joining WWE and taking a spot on the card. Brock Benningfield says they are a tag team with the goal of becoming champs no matter what. And so anyway, yeah. So Chris, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, a couple other people echoing something that I felt that it had to do with the spot being taken. Is that too flimsy motivation? I don't think so. We're in a world where people are fighting for a living, right? They'll fight over any reason. But I'd like to see a bit more than that. So hopefully we get something next week.
I by the way, it's sort of like with New Day. Like, I don't know if it makes any sense. I'm still waiting for maybe what they do next week to try to fill in some of the logic holes and like what was Kofi about to say? If they really bickered, was what Big E said really enough to have them suddenly put aside all those really biting things they said about each other that really hit a crescendo the previous week? But they decided to put all that aside because Big E, who was injured, and I mean, Kofi's not like a bad dude, even though he showed signs of kind of being fed up and being a little prickly, even when it seemed Xavier was going heel, not him. There was a little seeds planted, but I still just don't think Big E coming out and going, man, I was sitting on the sidelines doing my thing. I'm injured. I don't want to be a burden and steal the spotlight from you guys, but I think I can help bring you guys together. I'll be your manager. Let's make things right. So that's enough to piss off Kofi and Xavier enough to forgive each other for the awful, horrible things they said about each other the last few weeks. I'm not buying it yet. So I want to see what that explanation is. With Gargano and Ciampa, it's more clear why Ciampa especially, but even Gargano would be jealous and upset with the Guns. I'm just asking why did Gargano put on the ruse up until that point in the match? Or maybe the idea was when, I guess I can conjure up the mental gymnastic of off camera. Ciampa tells Gargano, hey, I know you've come around on my side. We've had a lot of texting conversations. You see that I'm right now. Let's take out the Profits. No one will see us. We'll go have the match and pick a spot when it'll work for us. When Alex Shelley thinks you're his best friend and always will be, and you never betray him. So he's going to let his guard down at some point. Take advantage of that. That's when we'll seize the moment and win the belts that we deserve and they don't. Yeah. I kind of I don't mind a moment of exposition next week where they actually tell us this, reveal all the logic behind it. Don't make us sit here and connect the dots. Some people might say that's self-evident and the details don't matter, but sometimes the details are kind of juicy and fun for heels to gloat about, and I think this is a chance for them to do it and make for good TV.
I did too, especially if they reveal that they actually did take the time to plot out at what point in the match they were going to, Ciampa was going to, berate Gargano, keep calling him stupid, right, where they were going to play act and all that. Yeah, I'd like some exposition. If they go all in on that, man, that would make me really, really happy. Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's bring Sean from Tennessee into the conversation, our video caller who's been waiting around as we've talked here. Sean, welcome. Good to talk to you on a Friday night again. How's it going?
It's going well. The middle part of the week was a little iffy, but I'm back. I'm ready to go.
Was that a shot at Greg filling in for me on Wednesday?
I know. I was like, it threw me off. I think I saw it and didn't even realize until I went back and watched the show afterwards. I'm like, oh wait, where's Wade? Where'd he go? Where's he at? But hey, if anybody's gonna host, I'm glad Greg got to. That was.
Oh, I thought you were saying midweek was rough because Greg hosted. I thought you were taking a dig at him.
No.
I'm trying to stir. I know you don't think that. I'm just trying to stir some trouble, Sean.
You can't stir any trouble with me, Mr. Wade. Can't stir any trouble with me. Chris, I've got to hear you on the first few shows, man. It's been fun to hear your analysis on stuff, and thanks for helping out with the torch. And it's good to be on with you, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. It's great to meet you, Sean.
Yeah, same here. So just going back what you're talking about, I was going to kind of bring that up, so I'm glad you guys talked about it a lot. That was the first thing I thought initially was, okay, you're in on this, but Ciampa's being such an ass about it the entire time. Why would I want to get with him? Now, I was always on the mind of, I thought better if they were together as heels, because the face thing wasn't working with Gargano. I think Johnny had a real shot when he first came onto the main roster. I think there was something there they could have really tapped into, and they just didn't for whatever reason. It just wasn't working for a lot of the things Wade said in the past. And so go ahead, Wade, if you're thinking about that.
But you don't, if this is what I was telling Chris, you don't want to say, well, I thought Johnny was, you can. On a show like this, you can. And so let me be clear. I thought Johnny was going to turn heel because the babyface thing wasn't working for him. That's great, but that's not why Johnny Gargano, the on-air character in the canon of WWE storylines, would turn. He's not going to say, well, this babyface thing isn't working for me, and we weren't getting anywhere. So, you want to have that substance, that granular explanation for why this good dude, Johnny Gargano, Johnny Wrestling, who seemed just sweet, nice, and wholesome, and just like an ultimate babyface type character, what would drive him to this? And it can't be because DIY weren't getting pops. I don't think that's only what you're saying, Sean, but I want to underline that shouldn't be the lens through which we evaluate angles. It wasn't working as a babyface, so now he turned heel, and that's the explanation we need. That's not canon. That's not storyline. That's reality. Anyway, go ahead.
No, absolutely. And that's what I say with this. I was like, okay, it didn't make any sense why Gargano was going to do this. But then as you guys talked through, that's what I was thinking. Like, he's just jealous, and they did eventually get together and say, you know what, we want these titles. They mean so much to us. It's not gonna be the way they want us. Who cares about them? We're gonna do it for us. We want to do it for us because we care about each other, but we want those daggum tag team titles. My only thought was, I wouldn't have taken it off MCMG that quickly. I just thought you had something with the Motor City Machine Guns, and the fans are into them. I've liked them. I didn't know a lot about them. I hadn't watched a lot of them in TNA, so I didn't know much about them other than what you guys have said. So I was like, well, I want to see what they have, and they can still be really good, and they're still, I think they're fine. It's just, I don't like the titles changing hands with a newer team that quickly. It made sense in this instance because of what they were doing, and the turn at the time made sense because, again, it was when the ref was back, her back was turned. That made sense. It's like, okay, if you're going to do it, you're going to take the opportunity to do it. But it was so just when Ciampa had been doing this to Johnny for so much, even in the match, he'd been just telling him you're dumb and you're an idiot, and then all of a sudden, but again, if they were jealous and they had talked about this prior, they have to say something about that, though. They can't just say nothing and go on having the tag team titles and not explaining that. They do have to explain it to some level. You can't just go on and say, oh, that didn't, all this didn't happen beforehand. There had to be a reason why Gargano would all of a sudden turn with you, even though you had been close in the past, but you weren't demoralized for a while. So why would you just do that? And going back to the New Day, Wade, I'm with you. That was the thing about the New Day. I thought you said it perfectly on Monday. I thought it was well played for what they were trying to do, but why would they just rip on each other the whole week before and say these horrible things to each other, and all of a sudden they just turn because for the sake of turning? It just didn't make any sense. It was weird.
And I think we have a scar tissue from years of, and I think some fans were raised on this, and it takes someone explaining or pointing out it's not good. It's like not good booking to book for shock value. I mean, we went through, a couple decades of various bookers who thought, no one ever thought to do something completely unexpected that makes no sense, that'll shock people, so let's do it all the time. No booker ever thought of that before. Yeah, every good booker thought of it, and they thought better of it. Like, that's dumb. That's just like, that's like a 7-year-old, mentality of, I'm going to surprise my sister by, wearing a mask or sitting in a different spot on the dining room table, and won't that be hilarious? It's like, no, it's just random. It's doing something different randomly to surprise someone. It's not sophisticated. 7-year-olds are great, but that mentality doesn't draw the types of crowds WWE's drawn with mega babyface Cody Rhodes and fans loving Jey Uso and his journey, and that Montreal moment with Sami Zayn. That was built around fans getting behind a babyface and rallying behind them, because it made sense. Their backstory we saw with our own eyes, their evolution of fans relating to them and rooting for them to achieve something that was tangible and a story well told, and they acted with a certain moral compass in the context of pro wrestling. So yeah, you want to have a story that makes sense. Like the New Day, just like, oh, and I don't think Levesque did this. That's why I want to wait it out, because Levesque is, aware of wrestling history and could talk to you about the pros and cons of different bookers, from Paul Bosch to Bill Watts to Vern Gagne. And I mean, and Gary Hart compared to Fritz Von Erich, compared to Bruiser Brody in Dallas. Like, I mean, he's a student of the game. So I don't think he just said, oh, we were going to turn Kofi and Xavier, but we think they'd be better as a heel tag team. So, it'd be really fun to just surprise people out of nowhere with them turning on Big E. He's a better booker than that. He's a better wrestling mind than that. So a lot of other people, I'd be like, this is stupid and let me rip on it. I'm waiting to see a little more revealed about that. Yeah. And so I'm hoping for it. But regarding tonight, I think it would be juicy to hear Gargano and Ciampa sit down and just be like, by the way, David Hager pointed this out. Triple H has always had Candice and Johnny on TV together, so Candice could be the voice in Johnny's head. Exactly. You could sit down next week, and it can be Michael Cole or whoever interviewing them, and Johnny can look over at Candice and go, tell him what you told me. And Candice's like, yeah, 2 weeks ago, I told Johnny Ciampa's right. And Johnny didn't want to hear it because he loved Alex Shelley. But I explained to him A, B, C, and D. He wasn't hearing when Ciampa was saying it, but he listens to me, right? Ciampa, and Ciampa goes, yeah, that's always bothered me. And, you can really play this up. Yep. And Candice is like, yeah, as I was cooking dinner for Johnny, his favorite chili or his favorite whatever, I was explaining to him when I had his attention why he should not still be loyal to this jerk who walked in and took from him what he had worked so hard for. Tell us that story. Give us the granular detail. Fill it in. It's fun. It can be juicy. It's great TV.
And for the tag teams, it would be great to have something like this with good tag teams, to actually build storylines, real storylines that actually mean something. It'd be great.
Yeah. Brock Benningfield says that Johnny Gargano's favorite dish is spaghetti. He might know that. He might just be saying something random. But I'll throw it up there. Go ahead, Chris.
So they could really lean into the idea of Johnny's resentment building up that his old mentor came and immediately took a spot, right? I mean, we all know that feeling, right? When somebody that we thought we trusted or looked up to or helped us out comes back in and takes what's ours, right? If they could lean into that, they could really do something with that. They could rope Candice into that. They could have Ciampa. I mean, it completes the package, and that's what's missing. They need to give us a little bit of an exposition dump in order for it to click.
Yep. And exposition is sort of like, I think it conjures up like, oh, it's hack storytelling. You should show people, not tell them. And when characters explain things, it means you didn't have a scene that told the story without the explanation. I don't think exposition is always bad. Sometimes it is the payoff. Sometimes, and especially, in pro wrestling, you don't want to do it all the time. But to me, it can build confidence with an audience if you choose your spots to have an exposition moment with characters. It can build confidence for times when you don't do it, that there is a story there, because bookers cared enough on these 1, 2, 3, 4 other things this past year to have the characters explain their motivations, and when they came to plot a plan and do it, like, bring it to us more often. And don't do it because a camera is eavesdropping on a conversation that is, literally just have Michael Cole go, we asked Gargano how, ask the question we're asking. We asked Gargano, how long did you plan this? When were you always on Ciampa's side, or did it just happen in the middle of the match, or did it happen? That's a question people wonder. Ask it and then answer it. And build our confidence that you thought this through enough to think it was important enough that it wasn't just the shock of the moment, but it actually is important. It was something we thought of, and we're proud to show it off in an exposition promo.
Yeah, because it had to be right away, because when Ciampa kept treating him like that, obviously you wouldn't take that if you weren't in on it. You wouldn't just be like, oh, well, wait a second.
Well, I don't agree with that. I actually disagree with that, Joe. I don't think I know when Gargano was in on it, because I think and correct me if I'm misinterpreting what you're saying, but I think Gargano is a nice guy who knows Ciampa's the hothead in their group. And Ciampa was like, or Gargano was like, dude, come on, settle down. I know you're upset and jealous. Shelley's a good guy. Right. I've known him forever. I don't think Gargano was in on it at that point. I think as it moved along, that's why I like the Candice LeRae example. I want there, as we look back, and I can't just march through like every feeling I had every week that the story's been going on for the last month. But I want there to be a moment that they had thought of when they did it that kind of just seemed like part of the continuum. That was a key moment. We go, that's when Gargano said, I'm with you, Ciampa. And it could have been Candice explaining it. It might not have been. It doesn't have to be that. I'm not saying that the fantasy book. I'm saying it illustratively. They have options here, and that's one of them, as suggested by David in the chat. So
and that's true because, and that's actually true because obviously Ciampa wasn't really shoving him till tonight, so they would have already planned that. It was more just kind of getting in his face, and friends obviously have those kind of beefs all the time. So that makes more sense now that you kind of talked that out. Because at first I thought he had shoved him before that, but he actually hadn't. He had just gotten in his face and was telling him, we should have been the champs, we should have had our shot, all those kinds of things. And then it does make sense thinking about it, like, okay, because I didn't even think about them attacking the Street Profits at first. I just thought, a mystery, who did it? And then it was like, okay, it makes sense they would have done it. And then talk about why they would have done it. But I do hope they add more to this story because, again, I didn't like it only because in the sense of I didn't want the titles to change that quickly. But if they tell me a story that invests me in it, I like Gargano and Ciampa as heels because I think eventually down the line, you could tell more of a Gargano face story 2 years, 3 years down the line, and it will be great. And because Johnny Gargano is a great babyface. If you tell the story correctly, it can work down the line. It truly can.
I loved Gargano when he pulled the trigger on turning. His facial expression, his whole body language changed. He turned and he looked at Ciampa and he's like, I am proud. That felt good. It felt better than I imagined. We're gonna be. I'm about to become champion. This is working. We pulled it off. Like he just swelled with heel pride.
Yeah.
And pat himself on the back. They need to pat themselves on the back now.
Exactly. Yes. That should be their gimmick. Oh wait. Chris, you want to add to this?
Yeah, there was something about the way he held his body in that moment. If it worked better than we thought it would, or whatever he said, that moment came across very well. Right, there was something like a shift, almost like something turned over, like you see in a horror movie, right? A possession almost. I thought that was extraordinarily well done and nuanced in the right ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Agreed. Sean, what else for us?
So just going back to what you said in the overall of the Cody and KO and how big, first of all, like you said earlier, how big they're making Saturday night's main event show feel.
Yeah.
It feels huge. It feels big time. This Cody KO, the whole story has been so well done on all sides. Cody, again, I love Cody. Some people were like, I love Cody. I love what he's doing. I think he's in a great spot. I think he finally has a story he could sink his teeth into right now. And the stuff with KO in the car with Michael was great. Everything about that was fantastic. And we're joking, how far did he go? It's like Mike, or I was talking to people. I was like, well, he couldn't have gone that far from the building because he's right back. So apparently he didn't go too far. He just drove around.
I know exactly where they were. Yeah, they're right next to. They're on the side of they're on the side of the arena. That was the ramp to the garage. Yeah. Right by the parking ramp. So, I know the area well.
But Cody everything about it's just been so well done. I mean, yes, is KO going to win the match? No, I don't think he should. There's arguments that he probably should. I wouldn't do it. I just think should be have to be the champion for a while. But I just love everything they've done to make the show feel big, even with the women's stuff. And I wanted to go back to the triple threat women's match with Tiffany and Naomi and Elektra. The one thing about Tiffany. Again, I'm a fan. I am a fan. I think she's going too far into the cheers now. I think she's diving too far into it. Even if they're going to turn her face very soon, I just wouldn't turn into it right now. Mm-hmm. You're still Money in the Bank. You're still you should still be playing a heel where people don't like you, even though you have some likability factors with you. You're still a heel right now. Don't play into all these cheers just because you were born in Minnesota and you're from Minnesota like that. I just think.
Because Gable did the opposite.
Right.
But Gable's not going babyface anytime soon again. And Tiffany probably is. They're in Minneapolis, 10, 15 miles from Prior Lake. I mean, I'm not as I in general, I get what you're saying, Sean. But but I think they're priming Tiffany to be cheered, knowing they've got a point when they're going to do it, and they don't want it. They don't want to break down people. They don't want people to think she's an awful person until the moment they decide they want them to think she's a good person or they should root for. So I think they want her to show over time she's immature, she's a follower, but it doesn't feel right. And the crowd cheers are important to her. And that it's the fans who are going to convince her that it feels better when she gives in to the fans cheering her. It feels good. She likes it. And not every heel wants to be cheered or gets a chance to be cheered and evaluate. I like it. But her playing to the crowd is this window into deep down, she is a babyface, but she's immature and following a manipulator like Nia Jax. And it's the fans who are helping show her the light. I mean, I think that's what they're trying. You don't have to like it, but I think that's a story they're telling.
Yeah, and I don't, because again, I think Tiffany, when she turns face, needs to have something that, yes, I get the manipulation of Nia is trying to make her relatable. I get that that's what they're going for. This Tiffy time is not going to do it. Like, you can't get, yes, it can be a one-note thing and it might do well for a while. It's not going to last a long time. If all you have is it's Tiffy time, today's Tiffy time, that's not going to do it, man. You have to build off more than that. And Tiffany just feels kind of, other than the story little thing she's getting with Nia, feels kind of just stale. She's going out there having good matches. The match was good. Her moonsault's great. But I want more stuff to build into other than just she's getting manipulated with Nia. She's going to be a babyface now.
No question. The moment she turns babyface, there better be something beyond what she's doing. I agree. Doesn't mean there isn't just because we haven't seen it. Because that might be showing too much. She might be good at being a babyface. She might not be good at being a babyface. She might have enough layers into her character. She might not. We're going to find out. WWE clearly, because of all the hints that she's going to be a babyface, everything is pointing that direction, that she's going to break up with Nia Jax. And then, but I'm not like pessimistic about it. I just don't know until it happens. Brock Benningfield said, I think Tiffany might have good comedic timing, and you could go with that. I mean, they've watched her in NXT. They've seen what she can do here. They know her off camera. She's super, athletically, she's really good. She's got good size, obviously a good look, and, fits a category that WWE wants to have people in. So I don't know. I mean, we don't know until it happens, but it's going to happen. Chris, what do you think?
One of the areas I think if she's lacking in anything is when we talk about psychology, the ability to manipulate the crowd, right? Saying it's Tiffy time gets a crowd reaction, but that's not quite the same as having the crowd in the palm of your hand, right? Yep. And I'm not sure she has the crowd in the palm of her hand yet. Yeah, she can generate incredible reaction, but not there yet.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not down on Tiffany. I love Tiffany. I just don't think I would have not turned her face this soon. I just wouldn't have done it. I would have waited down the line. I think you could do that. Why does it have to be now? I just think you could do her heel shtick, which I think she was very good at. And Todd said it many times. I mean, it was kind of one note too, I guess, in a way. So maybe you could just turn it face and it's fine. But I just, with a face, you have to be a little more relatable and make the fans want to cheer for you and give them other layers to make them want to get behind you, other than just it's Tiffy time and I'm good in the ring and I'm, and I have a good look.
Yeah, there's no doubt a catchphrase can wear itself out really quickly if that's all you got going for you. And I mean, I don't have any reason to believe Tiffany doesn't have more going for her, but she hasn't shown it and proven it yet. So we'll see. Hopefully what you're saying, Sean, is something that they've thought of too behind the scenes. Right. And they don't think, when she turns babyface, she's going to say Tiffy time and it's off to the races. She's going to be our new top star.
Do you think that she, knowing that it's going to, I'm assuming, do you think she's going to beat Michin next week? Or because I thought Michin was on a good roll. Like, I think, Chris, even you were saying, like, Michin, I do like what she's done. And I just, obviously I like more than I like Michin, but I think there's some good. Who do you think wins that match? I'm really curious where they go with that. I'm assuming Tiffany, just because it'd be her against Chelsea on the Saturday night's main event, but I'm not sure because I mean Chelsea's a heel, so if you're wanting to turn Tiffany slowly babyface, maybe you go that route. I don't know. Where do you think they're going there?
I mean, my short answer, Chris, is I think they want Tiffany featured on Saturday Night's Main Event. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I would hate to see Micha not make it there. I'd like to see her win that match, but I'm with you. It's probably going to be Tiffany.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, maybe it's Bayley against Stratton. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's other possibilities, but I think it'll be Chelsea. And then the question is that another chance for Tiffany to be cheered and Nia Jax? You know, her dynamic with Nia Jax changes because she was a star of Saturday's Main Event and won a title on it, and that leads to jealousy. And Tiffany's like, "You're never happy for me." You know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of hands they can play, so to speak.
Yeah, and I liked.
Or Nia costs her the match, or Candace costs Tiffany the match. Yeah, I mean, there's different things they can do here. I doubt Nia Jax comes to ringside and overtly costs her the match, but Candace could, and then Nia takes Candace aside and blames Tiffany when it's clearly not her fault. And so, yeah, I mean, there's some moving parts that I think they can move on.
Yeah, and I think, you know, going back to, we didn't really talk about this. Wade, I've been totally with you on a lot of what you said about Bianca in the past, and I still think Bianca's one of the biggest stars in the company. I think Bianca's got one of the biggest upsides there is. I would ultimately, I think, the more I've thought about it, would like to see her officially be the one that attacked Jade and turn heel. I've always been the one to say Bianca should be faced because I think she has a lot of heel tendencies, but I think she is more of a natural baby face where the fans can get behind her. But Jade was just like, okay, she's towering over her in a sense of I'm taller than her. You know, it just makes sense for her to be a heel. But the more I think Bianca, a heel run, she was great as a heel in NXT. We've already talked about that. But I think a heel run would actually do her a lot of favors. I think it would do a lot of good things to kind of get her back whenever she does turn face down the line. It would be great for her. Mm-hmm. But I thought the match with Piper tonight was great. I think Todd will say, you know, even though Bianca was hurt, which she was, you know, doing a good job selling the ribs for the whole match. Mm-hmm. But you know, why would Piper go that long when Piper hasn't won in, I don't know, probably a year on TV? It's probably at least a year. Now Piper's talented as all get out, we know that, but they just haven't seen her in that light. What do you guys think of the match, and what do you think they're doing with Bianca and Chris? Do you guys think a heel run would ultimately in this near future would be good for her?
What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I wasn't here for John Cena's original run, but I hear the phrase Super Cena, right? Mm-hmm. And I see that or something like that being attributed to Bianca lately. That there's a power to her, the ability to always find her way out. So a heel run to freshen up her character, to change her presentation, I would certainly be up for it. But there's something about the purity of her character that I guess I really do enjoy, right? There's what you see is what you get with her. So maybe I don't want to see her be the one actually to have beaten up Jade Cargill.
What I want is an authentic Bianca instead of like just the three. She looks like she's three video game gifs. Like just that her whole personality is just twirl and I mean like in talk in a way that doesn't feel natural. We got a little more natural talk from her tonight. Yeah. If she turns heel and she stops, and that's what it takes to get her to stop talking with all the inflection that she thinks is her character, but really I think is limiting her. It feels like it's played for 8-9-year-old girls only, and I'm ready for something different. I think there's way too much natural charisma and talent there for her to be bogged down in something that it's pure and simple, but it also doesn't feel the least bit authentic to me. Real. The way she acts on TV.
The last year has not felt that way at all.
I don't think it's felt that way during her whole babyface run. I mean, it's a bunch of, I think, somewhat stereotypical inflections that is a really oversimplified, dumbed down stereotype of what she thinks she's supposed to play in WWE land. And I think there's much more there, and I want Paul Levesque to get it, whether it's her staying babyface and evolve, kind of broadening her character, or becoming more real or whatever. Chris.
Well, I think it's a way that she can feel reductive at certain points, right? When I think about her braid, right, how the braid has become so featured as a part of her character as to almost render her a caricature sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's what I'm with you, Wade. I'd like to move away from that. I think I'd like her to stay as a baby face, but just give us something more substantial than what we're seeing right now.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry, Sean.
Well, wait. What I was thinking was we were talking about the Bianca and Jade match, just kind of leaning into this really fast, because when I wanted Bianca to be a face, because I would have loved to see. I want Jade to win that match, because I believe in Jade more than most people. I think Jade has a really high upside. Yeah, is she slower than maybe some? Yeah, maybe, but I love what Jade has. I think she's worked well. I think she's gotten better as time's gone along. And so with her being a heel, I would have thought, okay, her get a big win over Bianca, get Bianca frustrated where eventually she does turn heel down the line or something like that. But now if Bianca turns heel, I would still want Jade to win even as a face, because I think Jade, you want to go with she can be even a bigger star, I think, than Bianca can, I think. And if you build that up a little bit, so that's kind of where I was leaning with Bianca staying a face, because I thought, if Bianca stays a face, she wins.
So, I mean, they threw a comment out there, which is we don't know how long Jade's going to be out, and we're not, we're keeping the tag titles on them for now. So they might, be hedging too. I mean, a neck issue is something you don't necessarily know right away if it's something they can, get to by Royal Rumble season or WrestleMania, or she's going to miss a year, or her whole career's at risk. I mean, the way they're talking about it isn't. Maybe they know and maybe they don't. But the fact that they haven't taken the belts off them means they're pretty sure she's not going to be out for sure for a long time. But they're not sure she's not going to be out for a long time either. You know what I mean? Like, they don't know for sure she will, but they don't know for sure she won't. And so they're sort of at the moment hedging. Or putting that out there, or they know she's coming back soon, but they just want to make it a mystery when she comes back. So there's just things to watch there, and that timeline might be influencing what they do. But Bianca, I mean, as David Hager said, Bianca is stale and needs a big change. Some people don't think that, but I think enough people do that, and she has enough talent that's untapped. They should do something big with her that I think can bring her to the level that a few years ago we thought she'd be at by now. And just the mannerisms that, again, it just feels like a video game loop of somebody who's like, I know 3 things that Bianca does that we can turn into a video game loop. And her whole character is just that. And again, 8-9-year-old girls like it, but WWE's appealing to a much broader audience. And I think Bianca could be an off the charts big crossover star for them. And what she keeps doing that feels so unauthentic. And I've been ringing this bell for years and years and years. So, I mean, I won't go on too long, but I think there's so much more for her to do, and I think what she's doing is not with the modern times of what she's capable of and what they should be doing with her. Brock Benningfield added in the chat, I'm curious how much time does Jade put into this? Is she giving it her all and not progressing as quickly as we'd like, or is giving us the bare minimum? I don't know. I mean, I hear mixed things, but mostly good about Jade and her work ethic and all that, but obviously she didn't take to in-ring work as quickly as some, I mean, but she has absolutely other traits that are amazing. So I'm not sure on her yet. But I mean, there's definitely some doubters, in WWE and outside of them who are like, it was worth a gamble. She looks the part. There's a presence that it comes around rarely, but she doesn't have it. She's not, we don't trust her in a one-on-one featured singles match. Fans have standards for what they expect in terms of how a story is told in the ring, and she doesn't have the natural instincts for it. She has other things, and there's a lot of, I don't know. There's a lot of basketball players who are flashy, or tall, and you're like, oh, the flashy passes of Jason Williams or Ricky Rubio, but Ricky couldn't master a 3-point shot, and he wasn't even layups that he missed too often. You got centers, Michael Olowokandi going way back. It's like, oh, can't miss. He missed. He looked it, had everything going for him except for the fact he just didn't have an instinct of where to be and how to react on an NBA floor. So with Jade, she's like got a lot of things going for her, but she might be that number 1 draft pick who actually just in the end can't handle starter minutes in certain key ways. And this is hard. What wrestling, not anybody can be a wrestler. And sometimes you look like you're going to be great and you're not. I'm not in the camp of giving up on her, but I am in the camp of thinking we should have seen a little more of her by now. And they have put her in a protected position as a tag team with Bianca Belair, where they now know how they feel about her progression rate. But if she has a neck injury, I mean, that just changed, that supersedes any thoughts about pushing or not pushing her anyway. And she is hurt, by the way, as Zahn asked that in the chat room. I mean, she's got a neck issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it had been confirmed. All right.
Yeah. I mean, that's me reporting. I finally got confirmation on that, but this week. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm higher on Jade than most. I think she's progressed. I mean, yeah, is she faster than some people? No, but I think she's progressed well enough. I mean, they were building her to the one-on-one match with Bianca. That's what they were building her for. And I think they could have done it. And if the injury hurts, it hurts. That's unfortunate. But I think it would have been fine. Going back to real quick, I think they did a really nice job, with what they had to do with building the new bloodline back up a little bit. And I think they did a great job tonight. Just the poor security guys, Wade, I'll always say it. I'm with you. The poor security guys are just there to take a beating, and that's what they're there for. And that's fine if that's what they're going to do.
Come on, Paul. AEW's doing. If I can get Paul Levesque to stop doing anything by saying this. AEW does it.
Too much.
Yeah, they were doing it Wednesday night. Like, stop attacking security guys as some sort of funny thing. Those are guys. Like, seriously, like, if we're supposed to believe this is real, these security guys are doing their job. They're doing it in the way that they're instructed to do it. And then they get assaulted. That's illegal. Like, it's just right. Like, it's not. They're not wrestlers. It's like if Jason Jordan gets beat up or whatever, the agents, like, fine, they're employees of WWE, but
right,
yeah, like they're sort of. But the security guys are just hired to like enforce things, and they get just their ass kicked, and no one talks about them again. And baby faces do it too. Not as much now. Maybe I've shamed them into not doing it, but like they're not like it. They're not. It doesn't make any sense that should just be a thing that's allowed and never talked about after it happens. It's just, This would be fun. Let's beat up these people. It doesn't make any sense when AEW does it or when WWE does it.
Yeah, do you remember when Cody spiked that guy in the Crossroads recently, and everyone was talking about how awesome it was, and I kept thinking, man, my hero just put this guy into a cervical collar, right?
Yeah, he's an hourly wage worker doing exactly what he's instructed to do. And by the way, what Cody would want him to do.
Yeah.
In every situation, he's there to protect the fans, and he's there to take orders from his boss and follow those orders in a way that's helping to restore order. And it's just become a trope, a cliche. It's thoughtlessly done, and it's a crutch, and they should be better than this.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say, I think the Bloodline got heat tonight, which they needed to get. I mean, it was what they should have done. I mean, it would have been crazy for them not to. So it was good to see them just get on the show, just beat up some people. Even LA Knight, sorry LA, but it was fine. If you're going to beat up a guy like that, that's okay. You shouldn't be beating up. I mean, you could go beat up Cody. I mean, obviously to get Ultimate, but that's not where they're going with the storyline right now. So beating up LA was fine for what they were trying to do, I think.
What was Apollo Crews doing there? Was he just like showing up can I please have a match, Nick Aldis?
Apollo Crews, for goodness sake.
Yeah, that's wild. And by the way, I want to go back to the security guard thing. I don't think the vast majority, I don't think it's even like close to double digits that anybody watching the show is feeling bad for security. That is not required for my point to be valid.
Right.
The point isn't that fans are feeling bad for security, therefore you shouldn't do it. My point is that you should have some sort of logical structure to wrestling, not because people care about logic, but because people get a thrill out of structure, the boundaries of structure being extended to the limits and crossed. And for people to get a thrill from the structure, the borders of the structure being stretched and broken, there has to be a structure. You need to establish that, because if there's no rules, there's much less of a thrill breaking the rule. There's less of an emotional reaction to it. So it's like, I think people confuse when I say don't beat up security guards and there should be logic in wrestling, that I think fans care about security guards and logic. I don't. But you need logic for all the other things to matter. You need a established structure, which is why I love Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis as GMs. They create a sense that the wrestling company higher ups at the very top, Ari Emanuel cares about, Nick Khan cares about this, Paul Levesque, they want wrestlers to win and lose inside the ropes with rules that are established, like in any sport, to find out who the best at what they do is. And anything that breaks from that, you need, from the top down, to have a sense as a viewer that people with power are trying to keep order. Because then when a heel breaks that order, or a babyface strategically does to fight fire with fire, it has some meaning. No one's sitting around going, I only watch WWE if it's logical. But people react emotionally to something if there's a logical structure built in as a foundation to be stretched and crossed and broken. So I need to explain that more, because some people think I think fans care about security guards, and that's ridiculous. Of course I don't think fans care about security guards unless your son or daughter's a security guard. Then you might, or a buddy of yours. But it's philosophically, you need to have, you can't just decide they don't matter. Like, that's, why does that, of course Pierce and all this should he hired them, they shouldn't get beat up doing their job if they do it well. All right.
I mean, internal story consistency is what makes everything else meaningful. Yeah. So I'm with you on that too.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, Wade, I've got a lot of audio to catch up on, because the midweek was kind of iffy, so I got a lot of audio to get.
All right.
Guys, go VIP. You're crazy if you don't. Wade, I appreciate you, man. Chris, it's been fun being on with you.
Yeah.
Always
yeah,
fun being on with you guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks. It was fun hearing Wednesday night's Dynamite show, and I haven't even seen all of Dynamite yet because of some stuff I had going on this week. But it was fun hearing Greg and Joel talk about the show in this format. But Greg in the tier that I'm in, and
cool.
And then I love when Mike Myers is on. I say it all the time. I've hounded him about being on the show, and it just hasn't worked out with the schedule and everything going on with him for years. But he's able to do these shows every 3 weeks now with Javier, and I always enjoy hearing
awesome.
Hearing Mike and Javier in their dynamics. So, all right, let's go to our next video caller. Mike O'Brien is ready for us. I think he's giving me a thumbs up. He's done with his bowl of was it cereal, Mike? What were you? What
I
were you?
wish it was cereal. I made. Can you hear me?
Yeah, very good.
This is a new. Okay,
I'm blinded by the lime green of your headset, but
oh yeah. Well, I wore this maybe last time too.
it's showing up.
It's.
No. Ignore me. I'm just. Well, but I do want to know what you're eating.
I thought you were gonna say blinded by my beauty, but that was very rude.
That too.
It's just some soup that I made. It's
I like soup.
Goulash.
I get made fun of for getting excited about soup season when it's like October and it starts getting cold. And I'm like, get out the Instapot. And I love looking around that.
It's going to be 47 tomorrow. Sorry.
Michael Cole is going to be all upset about it.
We were at me and my dog, Norm, here. He's sleeping.
Oh,
he's my service dog. We were at Smackdown tonight. So.
Oh, fun.
Oh.
And so we missed some of the stuff because it was hard for me to get seats for me and him.
Yeah.
Because it was like last minute. So some security guy had to like kind of escort us and take us all through this area where nobody was sitting elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Because just I always worry about like people being allergic to dogs, not liking dogs or whatever, even though technically I don't have to. It's an ADA thing, but I mean, I still try to be nice anyways. So,
we're Minnesota.
Since getting one ticket's always hard when you try, and it's hard to get one ticket online,
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I went to the call box to do that anyways. So we saw there was a bunch of Minnesota people there tonight. I was super excited about that.
Jesse Ventura, Chad Gable, Tiffany Stratton.
Yeah, Chad Gable. And then, Tiffany Stratton. It makes me kind of miss, what's his name? Moss.
Riddick.
What's his name?
Yeah, Riddick Moss.
Yeah, Riddick. Yeah. Just because, he was another Minnesota guy too.
Yeah.
So it was cool. Tiffany, whatever. She, as I think you guys were just talking about earlier, that she was getting good. The crowd at least seemed to like her, and I think, I think you can kind of see the baby face thing happening, just because, and I'm wondering if it's going to be Candice LeRae is going to be the one that turns on her or something like that, is going to be the one that like does something, or if they both end up turning on Nia, or how do you think that's going to go?
Chris, what do you think?
I mean, they're telegraphing that Nia is going to be the one to turn, but that would almost be too easy. But then again, that also would be just sort of the standard story to tell. Candice is going to become the new henchman, right? She's going to become the new right-hand person to Nia Jax. I ultimately think Nia Jax is going to have some hand in turning on Tiffany, sort of a turn on you before you can turn on me kind of thing. That's where I'm thinking it's going to go.
Oh, okay. So is it?
Yeah, I
is
think
that
ultimately,
Tiffany?
I think Nia stays heel, and
Yeah.
I'm curious if Candice just gets attached to DIY and how that plays out now, or if it's just a visit. And so, but I mean, I think Tiffany will eventually be separate from Nia Jax. She'll feud with her, and then she'll move on and get a big push. And they need to have some heel women ready to face her, besides Nia.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense to me. Candice LeRae, because what is it? DIY? They sort of both went heel tonight, right? I mean, that's what I was reading out of that. That seemed to be because Gargano hit him with the nut thing. Any off the mic or off the camera things? No, I don't know how much you guys saw of the Cody and whatchamacallit, Kevin Owens brawl, but that kind of I think kind of just ended shortly after it looked like the show ended.
Mike, did they do anything after that? The show ended there at 9 Central, but did they do anything after that? Was there a bonus match or a talking to the crowd, or did they just go, thanks for coming, after they got pulled apart and went their separate ways?
Oh, shoot. I wish I would have been able to stay long enough to know.
Yeah.
But because of him, I always try to get out earlier.
Makes sense,
because I can't take escalators. I can't take a lot of certain things. So I kind of have to try to get in certain areas because people will touch the dog a lot and stuff like that if you're in a super condensed area. And I have to kind of navigate certain areas that make it a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
Since a lot of those places are mostly escalators, so finding stairs or an elevator is always difficult. So I did miss if there was anything, but I was trying to listen and pay attention, and I didn't hear anything. So, but I can't say for sure.
What was the pop like did Jesse Ventura get a lot of attention or brief attention? And did you notice if he hung around for a lot of the show, or just was there at front row briefly?
Yeah. Well, I was pretty far back.
Yeah.
But I was able to see, the camera spot where they had, or the light that they shined in that area. So I didn't see him leave, but I sort of wasn't really paying attention at that point because, I'm trying to remember when that was. It could have been during a time where I had to go to the bathroom, or he doesn't like Cody's pyro.
Oh, yeah. I know people who are mad at Cody for putting his dog anywhere near pyro. They haven't forgiven him for that back in AEW.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't get because he's on the floor, so he doesn't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden the pyro goes off. Yeah. So when his pyro goes off, and he's got 3 sets of pyro, and so I'm trying to
much to Kevin Owens' chagrin. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I heard him talk about that. It was like 3 sets. What the hell?
Yeah.
Oh man, I didn't think Kevin Owens was actually going to be there tonight until after the match. I was really excited because every other time I've gone to, he was supposed to be in Minneapolis. He wasn't there.
And by the way,
something happened.
And no, that's a good point. And I got to wedge this in. You know why Kevin Owens was able to get in the building and attack Cody? Because all the wrestlers beat up the security guys earlier in the night. Nobody was left. There's a reason that security guards getting beat up should be punished and there should be deterrence built in. Because then people like Kevin Owens who can sneak in the building and attack Cody. They serve a purpose besides being punching dummies.
Did you solve it, Wade?
Yeah. I hope Kevin Owens in some semi-meta moment. I want Kevin Owens in some meta moment to be like, Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce, they don't care about the security guys. Well, they should, because if they were around, they would have stopped me from coming into the building. Cody should be mad at them for not, whatever. Go ahead.
I could totally see him doing that, though.
I could, yes.
Yeah.
Do it, Kevin.
Yeah, his car promo was hilarious. Was it the mirror thing? He says, I'm looking at a handsome man that's right or something like that.
Yeah, Mike Remold guilts him. He goes, you should look in the mirror. What do you see when you look in the mirror? A handsome man who's right. I love it.
Yeah.
Kevin Owens is fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Tiffany, I wasn't expecting her to get a good reaction, though, tonight.
Yeah,
I wasn't
talk about
sure.
her reaction.
I didn't. Say that again. Sorry.
So, talk about her reaction. Was it all babyface? Like really strong? Or
I feel once they said, was it Prior Lake? Is that where she's from?
Yep.
Once they said that, I think it kind of reminded people, but I think people have been, I don't know, maybe I haven't been paying attention as much to her reactions lately, but I think people have been warming up to her in that direction.
Yeah.
But tonight, maybe it's just because I was there and I was thinking about it more because we're in Minnesota. I'm always trying to see what everyone else thinks, when a home person's here. And I always, that's one of the things when I saw Gable, I wasn't expecting him to come out at the very beginning. So, and he got booed. I didn't hear him get any cheers personally, but I don't know if like people on TV did, but I didn't. But for Tiffany, I felt like that had to have been 70%, babyface reaction, but maybe I'm hearing it wrong or whatever. TV is different. That was just me. That's what I felt.
Prior Lake is like an underrated public beach, but it's mostly just a suburb. It's an upper middle class, but not snooty, rich suburb. Just, kind of a second or probably third rung suburb, and didn't have a lot of houses in it 25 years ago. And now it has a bunch of, mini, starter castles or whatever. It's a whatever. It's an upper middle class. It's
mansions?
not it's not
like Lakeville almost, or
it's closer to, it's somewhere, it's like not quite Edina and Orono, more Woodbury, I'd say.
Yeah.
Lakeville, I think, is not quite Woodbury in terms of my but whatever, we're really getting into the weeds here. And so what was I gonna say about my point is when you say Prior Lake, I don't think people attending a pro wrestling show have strong feelings about it. Like when they pop for her, it's not because Prior Lake with it's like Prior Lake is just it's a southern suburb, 30 minutes away from Target Center that most people don't have any thoughts on. So it's just for people not from Minnesota. It's that in and of itself isn't like yay Prior Lake. It's just she's local. She's quote one of us. That's a Minnesota thing. Oh, you're one of us.
That's
we cheer you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I meant too. Like it wasn't the place. It was more of like that, like a reminder. Oh yeah, she is from here. Because I think a lot of people do forget stuff like that. Like, I mean, I bet you a lot of people don't remember that Bob Backlund was probably from here too. Because I think he's probably living Connecticut probably most of his life too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
I think it's like one of those things. But
So Chad Gable was brilliant, by the way. I started to change something, but Chad Gable, speaking of locals, it's like, I'm from Minnesota. I know these people. And you're like, don't babyface yourself in your hometown. And he's like, and you're all gullible, in the crowd. Just, and of course, the people in the crowd are like, playing along. And they're just like, all right, he gave us the reason. Now we get to boo him. And they did. How was that fun, Mike?
Yeah. That was good. And everyone was chanting, "You suck." I mean, especially when he came out the second time. So I think probably his reaction wasn't as good or as loud maybe the first time because it was more of a surprise because I was thrown off. I was like, what the hell? Like out of everyone that I thought would have came out, I wasn't expecting him. And then I also maybe I haven't just been paying attention to their Titantron stuff and everything, but that's really cool. Their stuff. It's not like it's almost like American Gladiators or it's not GI Joe, is it? Or is it? It
I'm not
almost
sure.
kind of reminds me of Top Gun, like American Gladiators, GI Joe type of thing. You know
Yeah.
how it's American made, and then the AM or whatever, how they have that. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
I that was the first time I really noticed it and thought, wow, that actually is really good, and I actually like the music, and yeah, that was really good. I think I really liked the vibe being there in person because I don't know if it comes across as well on TV or if I'm just not noticing as much on TV.
Yeah. Chris, how much do you pay attention to that? Like, how important is that?
Well, I mean, creating the vibe, the atmosphere, right? How it comes across on screen. I was going to ask Mike, when Shinsuke Nakamura came out, it was dead quiet on TV. What was the reaction like in the stadium there? Because that moment fell flat to me.
I would think the same, and I just don't know if I'm not really sure the reason why.
Yeah.
I think people aren't sure how to maybe feel about him. Maybe that's it. Because like I think people aren't sure, well, should I hate this guy? Should I like him? He's only been back for so long. So I think it's like one of those things, and it's a new gimmick. And I think it's just like we're trying to figure out if we like this or not right now. And I think his entrance, that was another thing I was going to mention since I mentioned the American made thing. His entrance, I think, is really cool.
Yeah.
In person. When I saw it on Survivor Series, I don't know if it's the same entrance. I can't remember, but it didn't feel as cool on Survivor Series. But I missed the SmackDown that was right before Survivor Series, where everyone was saying that was the better entrance with music or whatever. So, but I missed that one, so I don't know what that one was like. I only saw this one, and maybe I just didn't really. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it was. For me, I'm for sure unsure if I'm want to be into him because is he just going to lose again really quick till like LA Knight and he's just going to be dead again? I'm not sure what they're going to do.
I think Shinsuke has reinvented himself in a compelling, intriguing, way. And I thought it was a cool moment when Bloodline are in the ring and, because you're thinking they're down Bronson Reed and Tonga, and it's like, are they going to add Shinsuke like some honorary member? Are they in desperation mode? And what would the dynamic be if that happened? And then LA Knight's like, I got the mist blockers on. He puts on the LA Knight sunglasses, which was funny. It's very on brand for LA Knight. Yeah. And then Shinsuke had the mist ready to go. And so, like when the Bloodline show up, all of a sudden it's just like the mist just liquefies. It just drains down his mouth and drops onto the mat. And it was like, is he scared or is that like it was just kind of interesting visually, and creepy. I found myself kind of creepy, and I found myself like surprised at how much I was paying close attention to Shinsuke in a dynamic that just felt super. I don't want to. I was present for the first ever advertised Ric Flair Hulk Hogan match, so I'm going to blow this out of proportion, but I'm going to use it as an analogy. So I like fly to the West Coast and go see that show, and I think it was in Oakland, and I was like seeing those two in the ring at the same time. I was like, this is just crazy because I spent my whole formative years. It was like you're either a Ric Flair guy or Hulk Hogan guy, and it said everything about you. You were judged. Are you a Ric Flair or Hulk Hogan guy? Mostly Ric Flair fans looked down on Hulk Hogan fans during the 80s, and to see them in the ring at the same time was just like mind blowing. Seeing Shinsuke react to the Bloodline again, 1/1000th is cool, historically significant, but it's along the lines of it felt weird. You know what I mean? Because the Bloodline
Yeah.
have been this major push act, and they're totally different than Shinsuke's gimmick. But Shinsuke's like this New Japan legend, NXT great, you know, not living up to expectations of the main roster, but now he's reinvented himself. And there's just nothing about him that feels like it's compatible with what the Bloodline do.
Mhm.
And so it was really cool to see them just share space and kind of react to each other. It's like two presidential candidates who have never been in the same room together, and they walk on the stage for debate. And you're like, oh my God, they're looking at each other in person for the first time ever after saying all these bad things about each other for the last 18 months. So that was just kind of like an interesting little moment for me. And I was like totally studying Shinsuke. And I love that he just sort of slinked out of the ring, not out of fear. I think it was more like, I sized you guys up. You do what you do. I'm leaving. I'm going to do what I do. It's just sort of a selfish, like, I'll see myself out, but I've studied you and I've determined I'm not scared of you, but I'm also obviously not your friend, so I'll just leave. I mean, that's kind of what I took. What do you think, Chris?
That's what I took it too. I mean, he was protecting himself. He was making sure there was distance between him and the Bloodline, letting him see what was in his mouth, staking his claim, and rolling off to say, handle your business, but I'm doing my own thing. I mean, he's a Ronin, right? That's, I think, the sense he's going for, a wandering samurai, a masterless samurai.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're hitting that really well. So, again, a kind of chaotic neutral, doing his own thing.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been weird for him to join the Bloodline. And I was like, I wasn't thinking they were going to do that. But it crossed my mind. I considered the possibility without thinking it was at all likely. I was like, are they down enough men where they would do that? And I mean, I was like, well, that could be interesting. And I don't know. So, yeah.
Well, WWE tweeted out after that segment, they tweeted something like, the Bloodline enters the ring and the only one walking out was Shinsuke. Why? So they're teasing something, I think. It was more than just an overlap. Yeah.
Interesting, yeah. Mike?
If they do stuff like that just to see the reaction of people, to see if they should like go towards things, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
like,
Vince McMahon always said the advantage we have over almost every other form of entertainment is we have a focus group multiple times per week, thousands of people in the building reacting to things. And, we steer, I mean, obviously he steered the fans, but he also was steered by the fans, and any wrestling promoter was. And that Vince was trying to say, don't say that I'm, this dictator of what fans will like. I listen to the fans. It was more of a defense against people going, Vince, you're promoting weird things and shoving things down people's throats that they don't want. So he'd say, oh no, we listen to our focus group. So I don't, but I think there's also something to it. I mean, it's true. And every promoter can't help but, react to who's getting over and who's not with fans. So, you have that moment and they'll read it. Like I said earlier in the show about Braun Breaker, they're going to read the room and see how people are acting. Same with Tiffany Stratton.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I thought that whole thing was really cool because tonight it felt like a lot of things, at least for me, that were things I wasn't expecting. Like that's what tonight felt like for me. But I don't know if that's just my bias or whatever.
Did you like are you glad you went to the show? Was it something you'll
Yes.
Yeah, like you're like, this was a fun experience for 2+ hours.
Yeah. And it was a last minute thing too. I probably left Egan like at 5:50.
Yeah.
Which I'm like 30 minutes away because I have to take the lift. I can't drive. So it's not easy for me to get there. And so I didn't even I didn't have tickets. I was just hoping to get one.
Wow.
And I had looked to make sure that there was tickets available first.
There were plenty.
Like, I'll just whatever.
This wasn't a show they're bragging about a sellout. They only had like 7,000 some. So
really?
Yeah. Yeah.
God, it felt like there was tons of people there.
Yeah, tell me how far. I mean, did they have the upper deck tarped off at all, or?
Where I was looking, I saw people up there. I saw tons of people. Yeah.
No, WrestleTix had the crowd under 7,000 earlier today, and approaching 8,000, but in the 7,000s. 7815 distributed as of right before showtime. So, but when you have the giant screen up, You know,
True.
that block, you know, it's a 20,000 seat arena.
That blocks off the.
But it blocks off, you know, 20% of the building. So, you know, you're down to 16,000, and then 8,000 with the hard cam side and the upper deck behind the hard cam, certainly not full. You know, I mean, but
I didn't see if the above the hard cam. I couldn't see that area. So
8,000 is a great crowd in almost every era of WWE that I've covered, but they usually do better than that for SmackDowns in other cities. You know, I mean, it just they're usually doing better. But it was not a bad crowd. It just wasn't. It was. You can get a seat. You know, you can walk up and get a ticket. Is my point. They were set up.
Yeah.
They were set up for 9,200. So they were expecting more, but maybe they had a big walk up. Maybe you observed that, Mike. I don't know. You know, maybe there are a lot of people in line at the last second.
I don't know what a big walk-up looks like either, so I'm not really sure.
Fair enough, yeah.
I just know there was a bunch of other people in line with me, but I don't know if that's like normal, because I usually don't get my tickets like that, so I've never really stopped and looked, you know, at Target Center when I do that. I just go on through and, you know, whatever. I just know that how they were giving out tickets. Now, I don't know if they do this at other places with walk-ups. They gave me like a green piece of paper with my email on it and like wrote down, because they gave me a couple of seats because of him.
Yeah.
So, and then I had to have like a security guard take me to the area.
Yeah, I mean, your ADA situation is obviously different than is typical. So I don't know how that normally.
Yeah, because they didn't have accessible seats, and that was one of the things. He can't fit. Just like he would be right under somebody's, you know, right next to somebody.
Yeah,
he's like 70 pounds. So
yeah,
I mean, I just
wow,
can't.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, so I mean, he's a golden retriever, so
yeah, they can be. They're like, they're perfect kid dogs, and it's like they're 70 pounds and they barrel. I had it was a golden retriever that injured my knee a couple years back. Like, just charged into me in a field, and like, I went down, and I was late to record the fix. I was like limping my way home, thinking I might.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, it was.
I remember that episode. You kept harassing Todd about that.
Then Todd would ask me for the next 12 weeks how's my knee.
You haven't asked me how my knee was. By the way. It's still hurting.
And I went to the physical therapy place at Minnesota Viking headquarters. You know, on their
TCU,
campus.
That's where I go.
Yeah. Good. That's the best waiting room I've ever been in. It's that second, third floor, all glass waiting room up there, and you're overlooking like the Viking campus. It's when we talk about top suburbs in Minnesota. Egan's right there.
Wow,
that's where I live. Yeah. We're the Egan Bros.
Yep.
Lebanon
Hills
go to TCU,
Park.
Though.
It's like Minnesota Central Park. It's about the same size.
I'm literally live right next to that. I live on Thomas Lake Park.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, good. That's a good dog walking place.
Yep, I live right on it
Awesome.
with the apartments. Anyways, all these people are like, "Shut up, Minnesota."
I know. Rude Dog says, "Oh boy, back to the knee."
Bring up the knee thing again. Todd again. The old knees, it's coming back. You haven't asked me about it in a while. I feel it again. The weather, and now that the weather.
We'll see if he made it this far into the show. No one tell him. No one email him. Just see if he made it this deep into the SmackDown post show, and if we'll know next week if he goes, Wade, how's your knee?
You can always you'll always get some joint sympathy from me, Wade. Yeah.
Oh, good. I mean, you speak from experience.
Experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, with those mean golden retrievers charging into your knee sideways, and you think
that's right.
You're never gonna play pickleball again. All right. Those mean golden retrievers. My dog's best friend is a golden retriever, so they play rough all the time.
Yeah.
Your dog's best friend? That's cool.
My dog's best friend is golden retriever. Yeah, they live next door. Yeah, they see.
No, they
can spot each other from They can spot each other from 100 yards away at our local park, and they just lock eyes, and then they hunch down, and then we let go of their leash, and they charge at each other, and they just. My dog charges under it and then leaps over it. He's like 60 pounds, and the golden retriever is probably like 70. So yeah, it's fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, Mike. Anything else you want to bring up? I want to wrap up the show. And
could you guys go? Did you guys go over the Chelsea and Piper Niven match? I missed that.
Well,
Was that
we didn't.
Was that pretty good?
There's probably people. It was yes. You need to watch it back.
It was good.
Yes.
I love
Yes.
Chelsea Green. So
Well, Chelsea was at ringside, so it was Piper. Oh, you're talking about the three-way? No, she wasn't in the three-way. No, there was Bianca Belair and Piper.
I thought
Niven.
it was a handicap match.
No, I don't. Was it 2-1? No. Chelsea was just at ringside, and she got in trouble for standing on the ring apron.
Oh, I just saw her right on the edge, so I thought she was tagging in or something. I don't know what the hell was going on, because I had to miss it because I was just like, I really have to go to him and I have to get this guy some water.
Yep. No, that was Chris. We didn't talk about that yet. I'm glad Mike brought it up. That was a fun match, I thought.
Dude,
just good, dramatic.
Was really fun.
Yeah, I mean Piper's good.
In particular, Chelsea, where I feel like they're showing us more and more of Chelsea, right? A little bit more.
They know they're onto something.
Viciousness, they're doing something with her that I'm really excited about. Like when she took her high heels off and started just beating the crap out of Bianca ringside. I was there for that.
Yeah. No, it was a good match. Watch it back, Mike, if you can.
Yeah, it's worth it.
I love Chelsea, so I'm so sad that Samantha Irving's gone, just because she had the best. What is it? It's not cadence. What is it? How she just says
inflection.
Yeah.
That's why she's gone. She got a little too. I mean, I'm not reporting.
She got too good at her job.
No, she got a little like I know from the Justin Roberts book and interviewing him, like Triple H, and they don't want ring announcers drawing a ton of attention to themselves. They like you can have a thing you do, but don't do it with everybody. And like Justin Roberts was like John Cena, and that's like okay, but then he started doing it with everybody, and it's like wait, you're not the star. You're there to just articulate with a good voice who's coming to the ring, and you have to be content with that. Like that's your job. It's not to become someone who's going to have T-shirts and signing autographs. Like they don't want that. They want the focus on. That's why they stopped naming. It's sort of dumb, but they didn't name referees by name for years. When referees started leaving the company and doing podcasts, they're like, well, we don't want referees to be celebrities. And so with Samantha, it was just like there was. I mean, it's not the reason she's gone, but like I know there was some thinking. You know what? She's getting drawing a little more attention to herself than certain people in powerful positions were comfortable with. They thought they needed, and they went through that with Justin Roberts too. He talked about it, like, and I different people have different feelings on that, but I'm kind of the school of thought. Don't draw undue attention to yourself if you're a ring announcer or a referee. I mean, I really think it's about the wrestlers, and everything you do should be doing.
They always showed like her reactions on Instagram, though.
Yeah, because I know they marketed that, but that's her at ringside for social media is different than when you're introducing a wrestler directly at a show. Like the idea was, is she enhancing the reaction to the wrestler, or is she drawing attention to herself and making herself part of the show? When people go, ooh, how's she going to announce this wrestler's name? And that's the crux. But if she's reacting on ringside and you put it on social media, that's fun. That's fine. It doesn't do anything to take away from wrestlers. But it's just a philosophical thing. I don't have super strong feelings on it, but I kind of, like I said, I lean to the idea of articulate clearly and boldly the name of a wrestler in the way that they want it done, that management agrees with, but don't seem like you're sitting around going, how can I become the center of attention when I'm introducing two wrestlers who are going to wrestle? It should be, you're a vehicle to get the wrestler over, you're not getting yourself over. And there is a feeling, right or wrong, different philosophies on this, that some ring announcers start thinking they're more of a star of the show than they ought to be.
Oh,
and you're not helping, Mike.
I'm making it worse. So bad. You know what? It was Cornette's fault. He was the one that put her over, and now she's gone.
Yeah.
See? The Cornette curse.
Yeah, the Cornette. You know what though? He does the same. Or he gives. Was it Audrey? Edward?
Aubrey Edwards. In AEW, the referee.
He gives her shit for putting herself over, though.
Yeah.
Is it different if you're the ref because you're on the camera? Or
Aubrey,
is he just kind of a dick?
Aubrey has heat with wrestlers. Aubrey has heat with wrestlers in AEW and other. I mean, a lot of people. Aubrey, I mean, I'm exaggerating slightly, but Aubrey, when it came time to plan a match, essentially was like, well, when do I get my spot?
Wow.
And people were rolling their eyes in that, thinking it went to her head. That's not literally what happened, but that, like, I've had people in AEW say, like, she was looking for, on this TV show, when do I get to have a spotlight on me? When do I get to do something? And possessive of certain matches. So, I mean, it's just, it's like one of those sort of undercurrent issues promoters deal with, and, wrestlers kind of roll their eyes at. It's like, if you're a wrestler, you're a wrestler, but if you're not, you're not. And your job is to get the wrestlers over. It's not pro wrestling with referees and ring announcers. It's pro wrestling about wrestlers. Everyone else is there to facilitate and get wrestlers over. When you start thinking it's about you, people start rolling their eyes, and you can get heat.
That's right.
Yeah. Alicia Taylor, as Derek pointed out, she spiced up Chelsea's name tonight. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See, I missed it. Damn it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
so I gotta go back and watch it.
Yeah.
Because I just love Chelsea. I love all of her outfits. I love everything. I love her character. I love everything about her. Just she's the right amount of like goofy, but like she plays like a shitty wrestler, right? Or maybe not shitty, but like
an opportunistic.
Yeah, opportunistic, basically, yeah. Where she has to always cheat to win because she's no good,
right?
Or she's not as good as the others, or whenever like she loses, she's like, "Well, they just cheated," or "The ref's against me," or something like that. Always saying something like that. And I just love that because she's like a good heel in that way too. Yeah. But like she's also funny and everything.
Maybe someday she'll graduate. Maybe someday Chelsea will graduate to being a ring announcer where she can be a real star.
Or a ref.
Yeah, exactly.
How would she say her own name, though?
So what was that?
I said we'd miss the fun way people say her name, though, if she became a ring announcer. Yeah.
Well, no, because she could then put herself over. She could announce herself.
There you go.
Your ring announcer tonight.
It's me.
Imagine Howard Finkel saying your ring announcer tonight is Howard Finkel. Like, it's like, no.
But we're joking, but maybe that would be a good gimmick for Chelsea Green. Like, I could see that being her character. Like, oh, that could be cool every now and then.
Yeah. All right.
One last thing.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to mention that I haven't seen Pretty Deadly in a while.
Yeah.
And they remind me of kind of like a Chelsea Green type character.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I really like those guys too.
Yeah.
I know like you don't like the M&M or whatever. What are they called? Now they're
MXM?
in AEW. Yeah,
MXM.
Whatever. Yeah.
They're fine. It's just not what AEW should be doing.
Yeah. I kind of like some of that in wrestling. I've always liked a little bit of that to like relieve some of the tension.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I always
sure.
Maybe it's cheesy, but I kind of feel like there should be a little bit of comedic relief or comedy relief. But maybe that's just because you see that so much in movies, and then it's fed into you, and then you're just thinking, oh, okay, well, it's got to be like that.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't have to be like that, it can always be serious. I feel like Pretty Deadly though is really good, and every time, well, not every time, they did have that one segment that really sucked with Nia Jax.
Yes, that was the birthday or coronation or something.
I think King of the Ring thing. Yeah. That one I didn't like, but like when they were doing like the Queen Elizabeth thing and Pete Dunne, curse you, Pete Dunne, and like he was injured and really hamming it up with the injury and everything.
Yeah.
I've been, mangled.
I think they're a good fit. I think they should have been protected more. I mean, I think you can be funny, but also not a joke.
Yeah.
And they turn them into a joke, so maybe they can rise
they
above
did
that.
Kind of like what Chad Gable and Otis used to be like, remember? Like when Vince was kind of around, which is kind of why I thought like Hunter was going to do better with these guys, because in NXT they felt really cool. Like, I mean, not really cool, but I mean, they felt good. Like they were the champions. They had really good segments and everything like that.
Yeah.
Like their video packages that they do, their comedy stuff is always hilarious, in my opinion. And it just like, I don't know what happened. Maybe they were hoping that they sold merch or something, and they don't. So they're just like, well, I guess they're just not big then,
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, what's killed them. And I'm hoping if he does something with the tag team division, they can sort of come back. But I don't know if like their edges or like whatever they've had is gone. But I feel like everybody can have a comeback. Because I mean, if Chad Gable has made these comebacks after being like Shorty G, and which I think they mentioned today too, and all that other stuff, like he's had his highs and lows over and over. I mean, I feel like they could have something. I mean, if DIY, if they can win the tag belts, and Jesus. Okay, sorry. Wade.
No,
Rude Dog's probably right.
Rude Dog. I mean, Rude Dog's also not wrong, but he's also not right. Like, never mind. Just Rude Dog said Wade wants to go to bed. I was just in the chat room, and Mike saw that. No, I was just thinking, but now Rude Dog ruined my thought. I was ruminating on what I was going to say about. You said comebacks, pretty deadly. There was something there I was going to say. Now I've lost it. It'll come back to me. It's not that I want to go to bed. It's just I might be ready for it.
It's just like they've been able to rehabilitate certain people,
right?
Even though they've kind of been killed. Kind of like people are wondering, oh, okay, can you bring back Camille? Different show, different thing again. But like, I feel like if you can do that with Chad Gable, you can do that with Pretty Deadly too. And I was really hoping to see him tonight, even though there was really no reasoning why I would think they would show up other than at SmackDown. I think they've been on SmackDown before.
Yeah.
I'm just always like, that's about it.
Yeah.
I just would like to see them, and I'm hoping, since he's trying to seem like do something with the tag team division, I'm hoping that they have a place somewhere. That's all. I would just like to see them.
Mike, you going to NXT tomorrow night at the Armory?
I really want to, because I really like Stephanie Valkyrie.
Valkyrie. Yeah, she's
amazing.
Awesome. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The Dark Angel.
Their women's division is super good right now.
Yeah.
And I haven't really been their men's divisions, whatever. Like it's
okay.
I mean, they have Trick is cool. They have some cool guys, but I mean, it's like hit or miss. I don't really know what's happening in the men's division, to be honest. I'm not really paying attention. If I would go, it would be because of the match with Julia and Stephanie, and somebody just qualified. I can't remember. She got knocked out or something, and that was. I mean, they've done that before, or somebody's done that before, where they got knocked out and got a win or something. I don't remember who did that, but yeah.
All right, cool, Mike. Always good talking with you.
Yeah.
Fun.
Mike,
thank you, sir. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Minnesota suburbs, and appreciate the in-person on-site reporting. Take care, and don't check in again.
Yeah. Thank you.
See you, Mike.
See you, Chris.
Nice to talk to you.
Great to hear from Mike again. Always good seeing Mike show up.
That's cool.
In the waiting room.
And somebody local. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, I know what I was going to say a minute ago. Is I think I'm going to do. I'm thinking about my schedule right now and what could get in the way that I hadn't thought of. But I think I'm going to do a live post show on Saturday's main event. We're going to try to get one like this.
Cool.
So I think it's just kind of a cool, I mean, until they define it down. I mean, Jesse Ventura being there, and so that's my thinking is I'll try to host it, but yeah, we'll work something out. I just realized that I might have a conflict, so. I was going to throw that out there too, as we're kind of talking about post shows, and so anyway, let me run through an email from Chris Johnson here, and we'll sign off. Chris says Chad Gable, Cody Rhodes promo segment was good. Didn't see that coming. Again, we see a heel attacking Cody's in-ring character as corporate and phony. It's been a theme. I'm intrigued. It's going somewhere. I love that because there was a little bit of that promo from Gable where I was like, "Is this did Cody didn't come up with this? Somebody came up with it, and it's ringing I think it has potential to ring true and plant seeds. Mm-hmm. It just so Chris, what do you think? Because
last time, KO brought that up. The suit when he wore the tuxedo was that last week or 2 weeks ago. So there is something with the veneer that they're trying to peel away from Cody. Now, I'm assuming he has a lot of control over his creative, and so I imagine that he's on board with that, right? So is this him intentionally trying to move his character away from the kind of pristine, packaged, phony? Superficial is what Chad Gable called them.
The definition of superficial,
right. The definition. So,
all you care about is what other people think of you, and you hear him say that, Chris, and it's like, well, I can't say that's not true.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we still don't really have any clear motivation for why he took the Bad Blood match, other than he didn't want to get shown up by Roman Reigns, right? Mm-hmm. Cares what other people think of him. So maybe that is a motivation they're trying to feed into. It's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like a big teardown or anything like that, but it was an intriguing part of the promo. And then the whole team with Roman thing. I mean, Cody had his comeback, and there was something to it. I wasn't the only one, and so anyway. All right. Tiffy looks like a star, says Chris Johnson in the email. Yes. Very simple storytelling, getting the Street Profits out of the tag match. Too simple for my tastes. I think we're slightly above the limit of mystery backstage attacks for the moment. I think that's true. I mean, it's something that I still a good idea, but you have to think, are we doing too much of this? And is this a tipping point? Some would argue the tipping point was already reached. Piper is 1,000 times a worker that Nia Jax is. I'm still not over how bad Nia looked in the War Games match. She looked bad, but Bayley was part of that, by the way. Like that, the timing. I mean, I'm sorry, but Bayley hasn't been great lately, and it was crazy how out of sync they were at the beginning of that match. And some things later with Nia that weren't good. But this does not mean Nia has been awful this year. She has not been awful this year. She's had a good year. She had actually a very good year, relative to people just dogging on her, thinking she's just this albatross of any match that she's ever in. That was not a good match for her either, but he wasn't the only one having a bad night.
No, it was off. I mean, it was off from the get-go. There was no rhythm. They could never gel. Communication was off. So it wasn't just Nia.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think Nia was I'll just say this. Naomi should get the same heat for her performance tonight as Nia got in War Games. I mean, this for people who go, why Naomi? She's got, why doesn't she? It's like, why doesn't she get more of a push and that ring entrance? And it's like, that was rough tonight. Like there was that missing the kick entirely, and then the follow up was weak, and it was just, and even her promo was just kind of like I don't know. But in the ring, it was not a good night for her. And then there was a breakup of a near fall where she didn't get off the cover, so the ref just kept counting. So.
And it was tough, especially because it was the first match of the night, right? After that, I think that was it was first match. The Cody Gable bit, which was incredible. And I'm somebody who's been saying I think Naomi should get a bigger push, but then something happens like tonight where you watch and you say, how did you make those mistakes, right? Those weren't slips, they were just, it was sloppy.
Yep. And the spot I'm talking about, Naomi hit a split-legged moonsault on Elektra Lopez, and then Stratton landed on Naomi with a springboard swanton, which broke up the cover, but it didn't break up the cover. It just hit Naomi. Naomi just laid on top of Lopez. Lopez didn't lift her shoulder, and the ref just stopped his count. They need to explain the rule. If you touch someone on the back during a pin, the ref is required to stop counting, even though it makes no sense. At least explicitly state that, because if they explicitly state it, they'll realize how stupid it is, and then they'll tell wrestlers when there's a pin breakup, it's an opportunity for you to lift your shoulder. The ref is not required to stop counting. Lift your freaking shoulder or knock the person off the top. And that's the way it was always done forever until a whole generation of people didn't know that was the rule.
Yeah, the sort of like a glancing blow as if that's enough to stop the victory. I'm like, no, it doesn't work for me.
Like if a player catches a football on the 12-yard line, it's past 30 yards to them from midfield, and they're about to run in the end zone, but then like an assistant coach wanders on the field and isn't supposed to be there, the ref doesn't blow his whistle and go, stop. There's something happened that's against the rules, and so therefore the touchdown doesn't count. You would just let the player finish the touchdown, and then you would go to the coach and go get off the field, and that's a warning.
Yeah,
that's what should happen with a breakup of a pin. That doesn't actually break up of a pin. That's just hapless interference. It's not actually breaking up the pin. So finish the 3 count. By the way, WWE's gotten a lot better about that. But this was in recent months. But this was another example of like, it's not hard. Just tell wrestlers if you're getting pinned and there's a breakup and there's interference with the cover, no matter what, lift your shoulder. Don't make the referee look like an idiot for stopping his count for no good reason. Yeah. All right. I hope I can stop ranting about that every 3 weeks. I know there's people listening going, oh, Wade's going to go off for another 30, 40 seconds on this. But seriously, it bothers me. It's so stupid. I can't not.
And it's an easy fix, right? It's something
that's my point. There's certain things that aren't like a big deal and people are numb to it. It doesn't change business. It won't unsell any ticket. It's just so simple and obvious. It's so simple to clean up and so obviously, indisputably, a flaw in the execution of something that can so easily be corrected. Those are the ones that bug me the most. Like, because it's just if it's easily corrected, it'll make things tighter and better. Just do it and open your eyes and notice this stuff.
It's tough then when you can see everybody in the front row who saw the mistake happen. So now you have your performers messing up. Then you have the visual audience sort of shaking their head. So everybody knows there's been a huge screw up. You just can't get around it.
Yep. Well, Sean from Tennessee says, wait, I'm totally with you. It looks bad. Thank you. I don't know what Brock said. You need to restate what you said, Brock. I don't understand. In the chat. Okay. Bianca is strong as hell. Yes. I've said it before. Naomi did it. Oh, I kind of hope so. Although it could be Bianca too. But yeah, Naomi, certainly a candidate. Attacking Jade, we're talking about. Next, I wondered if LA Knight was being demoted or elevated in his U.S. title loss. I still don't know. But if he feuds with the Bloodline, I guess it's an elevation. If he has no response to the Bloodline, I'd say his hot run is nearing an end. That's interesting. You get attacked by the Bloodline and you just move on and don't bring it up again. That's moving you down a notch. What do you think, Chris?
I can't imagine that he's moving down a notch, right? He still gets the pops. I imagine he'll get the U.S. title back. My understanding, I mean, from a meta sense, was putting the belt on Shinsuke allowed them to boost a match he's having in Pro Wrestling Noah, right? So he gets to have that match as a champion. I imagine LA Knight will get the belt back.
And they get to sell the idea that Shinsuke is playing mind games, and it worked. Yeah. All right, I like the new graphics on the show, the chyrons with the wrestlers' names for the intros specifically. The machine guns work looks so crisp every week. It does. I didn't see any of this coming with DIY. They fooled me the whole time. I'm the mark. That was well executed. It was well executed. Kind of like New Day. It's like, all's well that ends well, but it doesn't mean the story was told, well going into it. Kevin Owens' interview was inventive and fun, and once again, the heel echoing fan criticisms of Cody and going somewhat meta. I want to know where they're going with this. It's not accidental. Yeah. It's interesting. I liked everything about the Cody Gable match except the creeds. I just don't care for their act currently. Specifically, they're overacting. Just dial it back. I mean, I wonder if not Julius, who's Brutus has had bronze. Yeah. There's so many bronze and
two BRs.
Yeah, exactly. So Brutus, I thought he might get scolded for being a little too cartoonishly over the top with this protest.
Yeah, and then there's that like cackling jackal laugh he's been doing. That's the one to me that's just a little too much over the line. Like, Okay. He needs a big mustache to twirl, as he's making it like. Then I'd enjoy it.
And then finally, he says, I liked everything about the Cody Gable match except, I said that. Finally, DIY versus the Machine Guns was my favorite part of the show. Looking forward to the Cody Owens build next week. Go VIP. Yeah, we got another week of Cody Owens build, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, super chat from Nima says, Wade, how do you feel about both Raw and SmackDown going to 3 hours? I think it's too much. They want to make ad revenue, and they want to just exhaust fans so no one watches AEW. If AEW didn't exist, it's likely they'd be 3 hours also. But it crosses our mind. We are going to burn out fans with Saturday night's main events, with NXT specials on Peacock, with 3 hour Raws, 3 hour SmackDowns, tours of NXT. There's gonna be nothing left of any time for people who normally be like, I can handle a lot of wrestling. They know they're wearing people out and using up all their free time, so that's part of it. But Raw when Raw was 3 hours, it was good for a long stretch this year. As Mike Myers was talking about with Javier, I hope that you can start 20 minutes late and speed through commercials like on Netflix. We know you can on USA. If you get started late, you can start on your DVR at the beginning. Yeah. We don't know the Netflix technology yet, but it's a risk. It was a bigger risk in the 90s because when WCW did it, they didn't have the revenue, the infrastructure, the star depth. They were on the downswing, and WWE is just rock solid with a lot of things that they're doing. And their star power depth and social media. They have so many things going their way, and they're not dependent on house show business. And frankly, they're not dependent on people having $50 or $60 or $70 to buy pay-per-views. That was a business WCW was in, and they burned out the fans with 5 hours of television, an hour or two of which was decent, and the rest was awful for a while. So now WWE, as they showed with the 3 hour Raw, they can do it, and they're adding women's titles, and they're going to promote some NXT women wrestlers. They're in a good spot to make 2 3 hour shows a week feel not like they're spread thin. So that's my positive spin on it. But Netflix doesn't. Netflix, I don't know that they're going to be 3 hours. They might be 3 hours 12 minutes. So when I say I don't know what they're going to be, I think it's more likely that they come in around the 243 to 254 mark. I think there's going to be just a very. And I was watching the main event tonight. I'd be like, it'd be nice to not know when the match is going to end. We get that with Dynamite. Yeah. And it's kind of a bummer. And with Netflix, if they don't do an exact 3 hours, which they have no reason to do because they don't have some network show starting, rerun, syndicated show, or scare tactics happening at the top of the hour. So they actually can end whenever, because then you just go to the next Netflix show and push play and start it on demand anytime. So I don't think yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
I like that. I like the freedom that the Netflix deal is going to allow them to do. I'm with you. When we know that a match is going to end at 10, it requires a huge suspension of disbelief to believe that they can always fight to 9:59 and someone wins then, right?
Right, exactly.
So having that freedom will change it, right? I'm looking forward to that. I'm cool with 3 hour Raws. I'm suspicious of 3 hour SmackDowns.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, anything else you want to quickly add before we sign off?
I thought it was another great show. I'm excited for what's coming. As someone who is enjoying this boom period, all of this still feels exciting, and it feels, these characters are taking us places, and they're doing amazing things along the way. So another great night of wrestling.
By the way, WWE did a great job recapping the injuries in War Games.
Yeah,
Bronson Reed, Jimmy Uso, Tangaloa, slow-mos, X-rays, all that. Also, stop jumping off the top of cages. Bronson Reed should not have done that. Survivor Series didn't need him doing that, and now he was primed for something special, and it's over.
Yeah.
Jimmy Uso, my God, I know it's the least of the injuries, although toe injuries can last a long time.
Sure.
That's an important part of your body to keep your balance and have good timing. So I don't know if but That sucks, Jimmy. I mean, he can be on TV, but like he was really important to them. Tongaloa, Tongaloa's like sort of replaceable, but yeah, it's like these guys are like human. Like there were way more big stunt bumps than there needed to be at Survivor Series, and they paid a price.
Yeah, especially Bronson Reed's, because the tsunami is not a splash. I mean, he never gets himself flat anyway.
Yeah.
So it was kind of doomed from the beginning for him to do that one. It looked cool, but it wouldn't work.
So here's the thing. If you have those injuries and they're real, milk them, publicize it, shine a spotlight on it. It's a legend of War Games. But also in real life, learn a lesson from it. And let's tone things down. Yeah.
Right.
All right, cool. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Wade.
Fun
It's always great to hang out.
Yep. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Everyone in the chat, our callers, our emailers, and we will talk to you all next time. Oh, and by the way, go VIP, people. You're missing out on some cool stuff. Plus, you should just support us. Yeah. We deserve it, right? Go support.
Absolutely.
PWTorch.com/govip and unlock all the stuff you're missing out on. Show support for us. Get ad-free versions of this show. Really, really cool benefits come with it. And it's like you get to unlock with one VIP membership, like if you get our main VIP sign up, like almost 40 years of content. It's really cool stuff. So
that's incredible.
PWTorch.com/govip if you're on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/PWTorchVIP if that's how you want to get your content. You can also search PWTorch VIP through Spotify, or just to get the whole overview of everything, PWTorch.com/govip. PWTorch.com/govip will give you all the options, all the different ways to sign up, and give you an overview of what you get. Thanks, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time.